All right, welcome in, welcome in. We are live. Bears versus Rams is about to kick off. A lot to get to. A lot to get to. The NFL divisional weekend has been pretty exciting. I hope we haven't used up all of our good playoff games. At the beginning it was quite the start, and it's living up to that. Of course, is what's fair even for the expectations of the games themselves as fans. But we sit back, we enjoy, we see what happens, and the uncertainty, the star-making moments themselves, who is going to ascend is going to be something that, of course, is going to be ultimately the new result of the playoffs. Stafford is the only guy at this point that can actually win a new Super Bowl, or not win a new Super Bowl. Everybody else, of course, has their first opportunity to get the ring. So the opportunity for the new faces, the new people to dominate the league is, of course, going to be, like we're saying, fun to watch. But it is it is interesting when we think like what is star making type things, because again, it has been such a hot start to the playoffs, and this is obviously the highest level of football. But and here we go, Caleb Williams to DJ Moore right away down the sideline. The offense is back. It is looking like maybe even the cold weather, hopefully that doesn't slow the game down as well too. And it seemed like that had an effect on the last one. I mean, it definitely wasn't the only thing. Make no mistake, we're fresh off of the Texans-Patriots game as well too. And do we have to go back and see if it was raining in Seattle versus the San Francisco? Why did San Francisco? Why, a couple different reasons, but why were they losing by 35 points in that one? But between the dominance of that game, and then we can obviously get into what happened in Texans Patriots, and that was ultimately again, however you want to say, a good game, whatever. You get the Patriots winning a good divisional football game, like that's important for the legacy and all that stuff. But in terms of those elevated moments, those star power type of performances, there is one guy that's really stood out as a highlight guy over the weekend. And Bills Broncos was a great game as well too, just chaos all throughout. So we can't sit here and complain, like we're saying, about the quality of the plays. Caleb Williams firing to the end zone on third or second down. It's going to be 3rd and 5 here on this next drive, and that was to Adunze. So we got a little stop route, maybe a little behind him, but I guess with the camera work there, you see the safety going over into the frame at the last second. So trying to make it work between the two different defenders. Honestly, if you're hitting Adunze in the elbows, it probably should be a catch, but the impact of the defenders, I'm sure, threw him off there a little bit. The ground game, you've got 2 All-Pros on the offensive line for the Bears in Tooney and Darnell Wright. And I wasn't even paying attention to the fact that Darnell Wright was a second-team All-Pro. Why is that a big deal outside of the fact that Bears fans, meaning that they would have a good offensive line. But he was also, if I'm not mistaken, he was also, his pick in which he was drafted was also a part of the Bryce Young trade. So not to make it worse for Panthers fans, but for them to continue to, for the Bears side of it, for them to have maximized what they've gotten out of it, it would have obviously. Oh, Chet, speaking of the Bryce Young trade, Caleb Williams just threw a pick. Oh, can they trade for Bryce Young? Oh, no. I think maybe we go back and check. Can we get the replay? Oh, he's holding his hand. Something's wrong with his hand, of course, Chet. If his hand wasn't injured on the play, I think he would have not have thrown an interception. But I think it didn't get. Was it off the hand of the receiver? No, it was overthrown. It was overthrown. So 1 for you, 1 for the receiver. The first, Adunze, the first time, maybe a little behind him, but kind of through the arms. That time over the head of the receiver, not quite able to get it to go. We'll see if Williams is able to, correct his mistakes here early on. Stroud in the last game is, I don't even know where to go with Stroud's career. What are we writing Stroud off, from a career standpoint after this? But it is definitely a different mentality shift over the past, and just a different perception maybe over the last couple of seasons from where we were at in the playoffs with Stroud a couple years ago. And, you hate to see it. I guess maybe not if you're in this AFC South competing against him, but just again, for a guy that was going to be potentially the the future, again, like, do we say the future of the league? I don't know exactly but, us having the great statistical rookie season, one of the greatest rookie stat seasons that we've ever seen. And for that to be, the peak of his powers is obviously, again, still the way it's played out up until this point. It is what it is. And it is and again, when we talk about the star-making moments, there is a little bit of something with that, with the Drake May side of things as well too, with him making this run. Not to say that it's not important for this year as well too, and not say that the Patriots aren't a competitive team. And I mean, if their path isn't looking great right now with what happened to the Broncos, then who has an easier shot than them at this point? But we've had CJ Stroud, of course, like we're saying, have this amazing rookie season and then a impactful playoff run, and not quite, unfortunately, just again with the perception and the expectations that we've thrown on him, haven't quite necessarily amounted those playoff games, the reach that level back. Hey, yo, I don't know how we phrase it. It is what it is. The man has had 9 turnovers in the last 2 playoff games, so I don't think we need to, there's no tippy-toeing around it. It is what it is. Like, the man just needs to, play a little bit cleaner football in some of these playoff games. Even Jaden Daniels last year, who, if Caleb Williams, of course, tonight has a chance to really make that draft class a special thing. If all of these guys are somehow in the conference finals and they're in the conference championship game in their first or second years, but Jaden Daniels even last year, had that incredible rookie run and was competing against the Eagles with a chance to get into the Super Bowl. The Eagles obviously dominated that one. Okay, Caleb Williams did hit his hand, so that did affect the pass. I don't know if he was, that affected, if he got tipped there, if the football got tipped. But the Caleb Williams, we'll see if if the hand injury, I guess, does affect some of the passing a little bit later on. But for those guys to have, and even Jaden Daniels was having a little bit of a tougher regular season before it hurt as well too. It's not like he was necessarily on pace and the Commanders were on pace to be back in the same spot. So I know, Drake May has kind of gone the other way at this point, where he, kind of, and I guess Caleb Williams as well too, it took them a second in their rookie year to get rolling, for the teams themselves around them to get rolling as well. And now at this point, there is obviously success that is being found with them at the quarterback spot. But like I'm saying, it is weird when I'm thinking of like the stars as well too, and maybe I'm jumping ahead of myself, looking at the divisional opponents and thinking about conference championships and thinking about potential Super Bowl narratives as well too. Hey yo, we're hot take, we're getting close at this point in the playoffs. But again, with such a new group of guys, and especially after Josh Allen goes out as well too in the first playoff game of the divisional round, it does set the stage for a little bit of a different, who is going to be that main type of guy. And Stafford is the other one as well too. We're not just to write off a Super Bowl winning quarterback like that, and a guy that it might win the MVP of the league this year and a Hall of Famer. But no disrespect to Stafford, he is a star for sure. Like, what are we going to sit here and say that he's not? But is he? And I guess I was going to say, is he like a Collinsworth? What's the over-under for Collinsworth moans that Stafford can get out of him? Hey, yo, pause. But, Stafford is one of those guys that I think Collinsworth watching the tape will, be a fan of watching some of the throws. The NFL nerds obviously love Stafford, so it's not that. But just in terms of, the face of the league value, who's controlling the league. And I don't know if, we're going to turn into Collinsworth and all of a sudden we're going to start bringing this all back to Mahomes as well too. But in some ways it did feel like Mahomes was, I don't want to say the biggest winner of the weekend. And again, not to just point to Mahomes, but maybe just, in general, the importance of having a great quarterback and like I'm saying, the mentality, the safety, the fear, whatever angle you're approaching with it from a fan base, I guess as well too, is going to determine how you view that quarterback. But just having that dominant force in the playoffs throughout. And again, it's not even just Mahomes. Mahomes is the most recent guy that we've had, but it's Brady as well too. Even going back into that run and just always having that guy in the playoffs that is going to be the fear factor guy and always going to be something that you're going to be looking at. And there were a couple Super Bowls that they didn't necessarily make it to. And Ravens Niners, great Super Bowl for sure, high level stuff there. You get Manning in a couple Super Bowls. Rodgers made a couple. Roethlisberger made a couple. So again, there was definitely non-Brady matchups, but just to have that presence and that dominant guy throughout the course of the playoffs, and then in the games, how they are able to, in these close games, if the team is able to keep them close and then be able to get those last drives, time and time again to win the games. And you see in these types of playoff games, why that like last drive, fourth quarter, just the competency, I don't know if competency is the right word, but the ability to just have a clean drive time and time again in these fourth quarters is just, it's like, okay, it really is like a skill that like 7 guys in the history of the NFL have ever had at that level. And again, I don't want to go back into the the old school sports media there, because there's a version of this 10 years ago where we're on here the day after the Bills game, talking about how from the perspective of our guy Peyton Manning, obviously there were guys in the past, even in the NBA as well too, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. It's like they can't win the big one. Pause. It's like time and time again, the choke artist narratives, all that different stuff. I'm sure that there's gonna be sports media outlets that are saying those things about not about certain names, but just about anybody that loses as well too. It is it's a take that can be had that way, but it is just more and again, it's to point it back to the great players. It does just show you the the greatness of those guys, where because of like Brady's greatness now, you don't necessarily go back and think of all the mistakes he made throughout the course of a game, but he didn't necessarily if he didn't play a clean game and his teams were in, that's a credit to the teams as well too. Obviously you have to have a great team and keep you in the game. And Josh Allen in the past as well too, time and time again, has had the plays where the teammates have maybe not necessarily made the play that he's needed them to make, and you could necessarily not blame him for the performances. But this was one where you needed everything kind of went, you needed him to make some more plays, and unfortunately just the collective entirety of the entire thing just didn't quite work out. I don't know if that's the speech McDermott's gonna give at the hey guys, the collective entirety of the entire thing didn't work out. So I don't know if that's the case for his him keeping his job. And you saw the emotions with the guys as well too. I don't know if there's a sense of what this run was with that team, but just those quarterbacks that can have those moments in the playoffs. And again, I think Josh, it's like you could still be one of those guys. A player at his level, and again, for us having rooted for quarterbacks that have had those narratives as well too, you always want to see guys be able to work past those and be able to overcome that. A guy like Tim Duncan, fortunately for him, he never had to deal with that stuff in the NBA. Right away he was in the title contention and turning that team around. And they, bad Spurs fan here. Did they win the title his first year or second year? But, again, right away, he was a title champion, finals MVP, and then, continued to sustain that dominance, obviously, throughout the course of his career. So just from our personal fandom perspective, and then, even Sam, like Mahomes just immediately takes the league by storm, and he didn't necessarily enter the league with those same type of, immediate, like, when's Mahomes going to win his Super Bowl? When he starts playing in the NFL, maybe Caleb Williams has had a little bit of that when he was in the draft. But, Manning obviously was a guy that in the early part of those playoff runs was a guy that just, those narratives were there. And unfortunately, some of the playoff performances, and you go back and look at some of the stat sheets, and I was even going back and rewatching some of the 2007 Super Bowl for reasons that maybe are connected to more of the Seahawks-Niners game that were... And, again, I don't know if those memories are flashbacks to kickoffs, taking those back for touchdowns. Those are not good memories for Colts fans in the Super Bowl, but fortunately that game worked out. So it's like, we'll go back and watch that game. And even in that game, it's the first quarter of that game is brutal from a Colts fan perspective. It is what it is. But, ultimately he was able to, he had a great second half. He was able to have a great comeback in the second half. of that AFC Championship game, down 18 to the Patriots, was able to win that, was able to, play clean enough against a rookie Rex Grossman in the quarterback at quarterback for the Bears in the last 3 quarters of that Super Bowl to win that one. And, was able to at least get that ring where you can say that he did that at some point. And then, the Denver defense obviously was a big reason why he was able to win that one in Denver, but was still able to, professionally pilot that team enough to be able to win them a Super Bowl as well. I'm sure that, you could put a lot of quarterbacks from NFL history in there and they could win it, but obviously, you don't have access to that type of variety necessarily when you're choosing. And in the league at the time as well too, he was right up there with the most capable. If you flipped him and Cam, Cam was the MVP. Cam probably wins the Super Bowl that year. If he's on the Denver defense or the Panthers in the Super Bowl, that's what it is. But again, Manning wasn't the MVP of the league. He was just the Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he was still able to, in the playoff run, do you go back and watch the whole thing? I don't know. But again, obviously still a different time in his career. It is what it is. And you just hope, I guess, in some ways, I don't want necessarily Josh Allen to block the Colts from a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that. The Colts weren't in the playoffs this year, and I guess neither was our guy Mahomes, so it seemed perfect. It is Josh Allen. Just go ahead and win the Super Bowl. It is what it is. But, it's tough. And, again, not to connect it like we're saying about Mahomes, but it does, I think, reset, unfortunately, to a lot of those narratives in some ways as well, too, because those were on the table for him. And, obviously he's done, back to the like Manning Brady sort of thing of it. It's not just like one ring that Manning needs or one more ring that Manning needed to, be able to stack up to the Brady resume. At the end of the day, Brady's resume was just, he kept adding to it. And at the end of the day, it just was too much for anybody to be able to overcome at some point. But for Mahomes, he's a little bit like that as well, too, for the current guys in the league. It's not just necessarily one playoff run that Josh Allen needs to have. But, again, he has been really, really great in playoff moments throughout his career. And if he had gotten that one, it would have really been a major sort of legacy, for anybody. But the way that we would have viewed him would have really been amongst those all-time quarterbacks. And again, it's still very much there as well, too. He's still at the peak of his powers. Like, we're not writing off Josh Allen as a playoff guy. But he was he was the top guy in the playoffs this year. He was the premier quarterback, not the premier team, so you got to give him the respect for that as well, too. The respect to the guys in the Bills. But it is one of those things where, again, it's like, is this prove the greatness of some of those quarterbacks? It's like, hey, there is something special for the fact that all of those playoff runs, guys were able to step up and make big plays time and time again. And, you go back and watch moments as well, too, even against the Bills. It's like, okay, the Bills didn't have Tyreek Hill in a game, and Tyreek Hill made special plays. And there's, obviously there's so many what ifs in NFL history. And, that game as well, too, against the Broncos is close. And there's, is there little things like, if they don't fumble at the end of the first half and momentum swings throughout and, again, just all the different turning points, who knows? But I mean, NFL history, I'm not saying it's set in a way that, it's not like guys can't ever change their legacies, and guys can't all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a second, this guy is catching up. Well, what happened a couple years later? Now all of a sudden this guy is in a little bit of a different class or something like that. But it does seem like, again, the league, in terms of the legacy hierarchies of it, have been, reconfirmed as to what they are right now. And again, it is those newer guys that has a chance to now emerge in terms of what their status is currently. Like, obviously, Drake May and Caleb Williams can't legacy take over anybody at this point. Even if, well, I guess, if Drake May wins an MVP, over or wins the Super Bowl before Josh Allen, that would be tough for the Josh Allen case of it. But you would have to look at the path as well. I go, playing Bo Nix before he broke the ankle is, or, during, when did he break the ankle in the course? We go back and check the highlights as well, too. Is that even tougher, losing to Bo Nix on a broken ankle? But at the end of the day, you just you gotta feel bad. You gotta feel bad. We don't feel bad that the Broncos won. but just on the, or maybe you feel empathy. Is that the right word? And maybe that empathy is feeling bad. I don't know. But, you do feel empathy for a guy that, again, has obviously not gotten to the level that maybe we think that he should get to in some of these playoff runs as well. And again, for this game, maybe being performance-wise, some of the turnovers maybe being a little bit more, directed at him as well too, when he's had such a great run of, near perfect playoff games. And the last playoff game that they played, it was a little, he was doing everything in that game, and a little bit of, kind of older school Josh Allen, where it's like, okay, maybe there's some bad habit plays that are starting to creep in there. And you could see that as well too. And, Mahomes, I think maybe had a little bit of the moment in the Super Bowl against the Eagles where it was just like all of the greatness of, the expectations of what we think Mahomes could be as a player. I don't know if it, in a sense, I don't, do you want to say came crashing down in the Super Bowl? But you wonder if the weight of that did matter in that game. And you do wonder if the weight of what we expected Josh Allen to do for this Bills team did matter as well too, because there were a lot of times where, and again, he's going to have to create so much for that team throughout the course of the game. But there were times when it just, it was like, and Romo was pointing it out as well too, where it's just like, maybe he's just trying to make too much of a play at a time, where a little like when the NBA team maybe is, it's like, okay, you don't quite need to resort to just like taking, it's 2026. So obviously, hey, we're only taking 3-pointers now these days anyways. But, it's not when you don't quite need to go to just shooting only 3-pointers. You can still get to the basket for 2 to cut the score, but maybe you take, you settle for a bad shot. Like, is there a couple times that Josh Allen settled for a bad 3? It's like, okay, yeah, Josh Allen can obviously hit the 3. Like, we get that. But he can also, get to the basket a couple times, maybe get a couple of free throws and get some easier offense going. And, again, ultimately it was a close one as well too. But, tough to see for the Allen side of things, unfortunately, early exit there being the leader of the legacy clubhouse this far. But, Stafford as well too. I guess we're just, saying Allen's the leader of the legacy clubhouse. Stafford's right there. If Stafford becomes a 2-time winning Super Bowl quarterback, that does a whole lot for, that would really shift up the legacy rankings a little bit. I don't know if the Steve Young comparisons are fair, because, and is it fair to say he had a better first half of his career than Steve Young? I think maybe the Steve Young fans out there would attack us with the way the Tampa roster was built. Compared, did Steve Young have Calvin Johnson? We'd have to go back and double check, the receivers on those Tampa Bay teams. But that would obviously, be a major boost for the quarterback legacy rankings. But just in terms of, again, the individual capability of a player, Josh Allen is obviously a special offensive player. So for him to, and again, Stafford has a ring as well too. So, and not to say that Stafford definitely is a guy that can be a 2-ring quarterback. Like, if we were looking back at NFL history and saying, oh yeah, Matt Stafford, former number 1 overall pick, had insane numbers, again, one of the more creative passers that the league has ever seen, but the IQ and all that stuff is there as well too. Like, it all makes sense. But, one Super Bowl at the over under probably would have been a half a Super Bowl anyways. So he is, I think, at his over under mark for his career. Again, if he gets the second one, it's just everything at this point is adding to it. Again, that could be a number that changes throughout as well too, depending on what the expectations are. Maybe everybody just starts off when you're like, okay, now you're a good quarterback. It's just over under a half a Super Bowl. But either way, Josh Allen is obviously at that level where it's like, okay, the over under has been set to where he should get to the game. And there have been guys, obviously, that have, I think, that should have and have, it's the, I don't want to say Moreno's the only one, because that's unfair to Moreno as well too. I don't know if we have to pull up a stats leader for the NFL passers and see what we can find here for who else is in this league with who else is in this tier with Josh Allen. I think maybe the other players that he's playing with at this time, of course, could be. But just thinking throughout, and again, we know the names of the quarterback. Oh, Fran Tarkington, obviously, Warren Moon, I don't know if he ever won a Super Bowl. Not as like a main guy. I don't know if he ever won one, maybe on a roster somewhere. But yeah, he would have been, I think, a career guy that might not have gotten one as well too. And for Allen, obviously it'll be more the all-purpose yards. I guess Matt Ryan as well too. I don't know if we would necessarily rank Matt Ryan over Dan Marino all time, but he does have more passing yards anyways. But again, Favre, Brady, Breeze, Manning, Favre, Rodgers, Stafford, Roethlisberger, Rivers is, and again, maybe Ryan and Rivers are in a tier below Stafford right now because they don't have a ring. But I don't know. I think Stafford was a number 1 overall pick. Like Ryan was, but I don't think Ryan wouldn't have been if Stafford was in the class. Respectfully to Matt Ryan, it is what it is. Again, Moreno might be the obvious sort of number 1 as well too, and it's just it's respect to Moreno. Moreno is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Like that's part of the classification, so it's not nothing bad with being a great quarterback. It's just unfortunately some of the playoff stuff didn't work out. Caleb Williams scrambling outside again and hitting a guy down the field. Loveland. There's a flag on the play. We'll see if it stands. But of course, extending plays has continued to be a success here, and the offenses are continuing to go down the field as well too, despite the weather. Yes, penalty declined, so the play will stand. The crowd was reacting like the play was going to be good. So, imagine that would be true for sure. And again, we mentioned Fran Tarkenton. Even Flacco. Flacco's now top 15 in passing yards. These last couple of years have helped make that Super Bowl legit. Hey, yo. I don't know if that's the case. Is Kirk Cousins going to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time without a Super Bowl? Testaverde? Like, McNabb? Prescott? Is Prescott going to be one of the great Super Bowl-less quarterbacks? Again, respect. And maybe it's not all correlated to passing yards as well, too. Like, where's Jim Kelly at on this list? I know maybe he's got some passing yards in some other leagues. Oh, 1st and goal? For the Bears, here we go. They're driving. They've got to respond. The Rams scored the last time, if we didn't mention. Y.A. Tittle? I don't think Y.A. Tittle played in the Super Bowl era, so he couldn't win a Super Bowl. So, yeah, those guys wouldn't count, like Otto Graham, but they did win championships back in the day, so they are winners. Hey, Namath got his Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield, more passing yards than Namath, so should he be at a Super Bowl at this point? I'm not sure, but... yeah, I think, could it be fair to say that Josh Allen's the second best quarterback at this point to never win a Super Bowl? Yikes. I mean, and if we're comparing him to Rivers, like Rivers never won a league MVP. I know, we could still go back and debate the stats of that MVP for him and Lamar, but I think, it's fair looking back. The MVP distribution, I think the numbers there are fine. Lamar 2, Josh Allen's got 1 so far. Like that overall makes sense. Do we have to go back and argue about the seasons? I guess, again, Lamar from a stat standpoint is even a little bit more clearly above some of those stuff than Allen. It is again, a credit to Allen in the playoff moments that he has had and having those good playoff moments that would give us that hope that, again, he could be that guy if that team is there. And obviously we're saying, if we have to make it clear, he can't, I think he still can be. Because, like, Stafford, again, is literally the perfect example. He's in his, I don't remember exactly how old he was when he won that first Super Bowl, but was not at the years where you would consider him being at the peak of his powers. Is he the same type of physical quarterback, dominant runner the way that Josh Allen is? Could Josh Allen develop into the passer that Stafford has become? Or, is, slash, again, the IQ stuff that he's really developed over the course of his career? That is, of course, a question as well. But just from the career that he's had so far, with the couple of years at the peak of his powers, like, you would kind of have to put him in the mix there as well too. And I guess, respect, maybe Warren Moon as well too. I know, again, Josh Allen's not showing up in the passing yards side of things, because there is obviously the rushing stats that are there as well too. Mike Vick needs a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, obviously he needs a Super Bowl, but with the way the playoffs shook out and stuff, it's like, should he have won one from one of those years? Oh, was it 2002? The year that they lost the Eagles in the championship game? Maybe that year would have been interesting. But the Eagles were still, I think, maybe a better roster than the Falcons roster. Mike Vick on the Eagles then would have been the the pairing. 3rd and goal, the Rams defense with the stand. Ben Johnson, here we go. If Dan Campbell was the coach of the Lions, they'd be going for this 4th down, trying to tie the game. We'll see if LaFleur was playing, or if Ben Johnson was playing LaFleur, he might go for it as well, too. He couldn't stand probably being down 7-0 on LaFleur, but I don't know, divisional round, McVay, Stafford, you just got to take points, put them on the board. You can go let the quarter run out, so, free timeout to make a decision here is a heavy first quarter decision, a weighty first quarter decision early on. I think you just got to take the points and trust the defense. The Bears defense has been a little bit more reliant on takeovers than it has been, maybe them more so than them just giving up yardage per se. But I think you could also trust that takeover capability as well too. I don't think that's super crazy, but yeah, hey yo, shout out. Hopefully next year, well, not hopefully next year. We'll see where the Colts are at next year. If the Colts are out of the playoffs and Mahomes is out of the playoffs, and I guess we did pick the Panthers as our favorite team over the Bills for our non-Colts team for going into the playoffs. So, our mistress team was the Panthers. So they were out early. So if the Panthers don't make the playoffs again next year, and then, I don't know, is there any other mistress teams we have to check off the list? Once all the mistress teams are out of the playoffs and the Colts and I guess the Broncos as well, they're like, hey, yo, then we can root for Josh Allen. It is what it is. We'll have to go down the list. What's the order? But for the most part, for his career, again, it would just be nice for the narratives for him to be able to. And Lamar, I don't know if him and Lamar can get can they win the Super Bowl together? Obviously, Lamar having his own ring as well too. But that would be 2 seasons now going forward that again we have to just consider non-Super Bowl winning Colts seasons. And I'm assuming there's more guys in the league that once Arch Manning gets in the league, we're going to be rooting for Arch Manning to win a Super Bowl, even if he's not on the Colts. It is what Anthony Richardson's going to get traded. We'll need him to win a Super Bowl somewhere to prove the Colts wrong. So, again, there's still all these non-Colts seasons that we're going to have to account for. We're going to actually need the Colts to win one. Mahomes is going to have to win the redemption Super Bowl at some point as well, too. So, we're not trying to push the Colts Super Bowl into the 2030s. But also, I don't know what the Daniel Jones-led team is. I guess the Daniel Jones-led team after Week 9, when's he going to be back? Will be the Riley Leonard, Daniel Jones Colts might not be the number 1 team in contention for next year. But, the McDermott piece of it will be probably the interesting piece to see if they have to make a switch where they go. And obviously has been able to provide that team a level of consistency like we were talking about with Tomlin when he was, when he stepped down in Pittsburgh. It's obviously their ability to upgrade over the last couple of years has been a little bit compromised by the fact that the team has just been good in the regular season and has been close. And again, it's not like you've been thinking all the time about how do we, do we need to upgrade the coaching spot? But just if you're talking about trying to always get better and always be putting yourself in competition for that Super Bowl opportunity, hey, yo, they're actually going for it. 4th and goal. Here we go on the 2.5. Caleb Williams in the shotgun. He's got the running back. Oh, he doesn't go for him. There he goes. He's got the receivers. That Moore? He got DJ Moore in the back of the end zone. The all-pros on the offensive line. We got a battle of the all-pros on the line. We got Verse, like we mentioned it right in Tooney earlier, versus Verse and actual Pro Bowl, All-Pro honors. But obviously everybody there is talented and capable, and their ability to rush 4 is a major part of the defense. Oh, check. Caleb Williams throwing it through everybody. Hey, yo. Right over the outstretched arms of a linebacker. You got a safety and a corner flying in there, and he's still right on a dime. Right able to get the game tied up at 7 here. So the Ben Johnson gamble pays off. And sometimes it's about the gamble just paying off as well, too. Speaking of Dan Campbell, because Vrabel had a 4th down scenario that he went for in the game that just happened, and that was their first score of the game was on that 4th down. And, that game obviously didn't just go down to that one play as well, too. I think if they had ended up not getting that one, the amount of turnovers the Texans would have, they would have probably just turned it over again and made up for it. It is what it is. Are the Texans going to be I guess We went to tread lightly. Are we live on YouTube right now? Can we accuse anybody of point shaving? I don't know. When you have so many turnovers in a playoff game, it is crazy. And when there are accusations being brought on in all sports everywhere for these types of things, I can't. Do we? There's gonna be. Are we gonna get some from the law offices from CJ Stroud's lawyers in the mail? I'm not sure. Like, you can't say our client was involved in a point shaving scandal. That's not allowed. Hey, yo. But I don't know. We have to go back and watch some of those passes. We're just throwing it straight in the ground. I mean, do we have to go back and just compare the first couple of years? I don't know. Again, the Allen thing is there's a different takeaway because again, there was some turnovers and stuff in this last game, but you're still maybe compared to Mahomes, maybe compared to the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but compared to the guys in the league now, you're still looking at him going, yes, if the team is good enough, you can probably win the Super Bowl. Again, like we're talking about, it's that greatness level that is being chased, the legacy stuff that we, the GOATs that we're arguing about all the time. But for guys right now, and maybe again, does Drake May, Jaden Daniels, who's in the class? I guess is Mendoza gonna shift that stuff over the next couple of years? Who knows? But as of right now, again, it's still some of these main guys. But for again, like we're saying, just what the career achievement levels of it all is. That is where he is competing at this point. But for a guy like and Stafford almost thrown. Is that his one interception ball for the first half? Is he at 1 a game or 1.5 right now? I don't know if we go back and check the recent performances. It seems like he might be at 1 interception ball a half. Again, is it being caught is also the question. That one was dropped. Was that right into double coverage? Oh, chat. Yes, it was. Hey, yo. And we're just focused on the defenders. Was that Tapuka? It wasn't even Tapuka. You're throwing into double coverage and it's not even Nakua. Did he get confused? He's like, that has to be Puka. Let me just throw it over there. Byard led the league in interceptions, so him just flying around being a ball hawk, one of the greats, is definitely possible as well. Second, I mean, he was there, so it was, but, definitely something they have to account for, but I think he was there the whole time. Both guys were there the whole time. It was a bit of a tough pass. It is what it is. He's seeing Caleb Williams thread the needle a couple times. It's like, you can't let Caleb Williams win the YouTube highlight reel for the day as well. It is what it is. A battle of the sidearm gunslinger quarterbacks. This is going to be a fun one for the arm angle nerds. Are going to have a great time for this one. This could be one of the higher level matchups that we've had in that way. It's not like we've had a Stafford Mahomes Super Bowl yet. That'd be the ultimate, that'd be like the Obi-Wan versus Anakin almost situation. I know that there was never actually like a Stafford was on the roster with Mahomes, but there was that Mahomes was getting a lot of credit for stuff that's like, wait a second, hasn't Stafford been doing this the whole time? Just the Lions been bad, and now maybe he's on a good team and it can matter. But hey, yo, this one 3rd and 4, not able to get it to go. So this is that was I guess the case for taking the field goal, trusting the defense as well. But the analytics of the of 2025, 2026 are probably just going to say that you could trust your defense on like the 2-yard line instead of punting it or kicking it off, and then giving them a little bit better field position, but then you don't have points. So is 25, 30 yards of field position essentially worth 3 points is I guess the question that the analytics have happened. I don't know. Does analytics have like a yardage points per yard type of comparison type thing? You give up this many yards, is that worth this many points, taking this type of opportunity? I don't know. But yeah, we were talking about Stroud with the player performance. With Stroud, again, the takeaway is not the greatest stuff. It is, again, a little bit more instant right now, where it's like you're kind of looking at it going, and again, there's probably maybe team stuff that you can look at as well too. Could they be a team that does some coordinator shakeups as their way to solve the problems of what happened this year. I don't know. And I don't know, do we have to go back? Was there like a Stroud injury that could be an excuse as to why the season is what it is? But again, that was 2 playoff games in a row that were just not very cleanly played by a guy that we trust in these moments. And again, it is to the point now where, and I know that we also have that he's that Ohio State alum, so maybe we're secretly ready to jump off the bandwagon when we can. It is what it is. But I don't know if I have that same level. Am I going to say that I don't trust him in a playoff game? That might be a little extreme. They did win one with him still having 5 fumbles somehow. So, the level to which you have to trust him on this Texans team, again, is a little bit lower. And even in the game today, again, you had, Drake May won a playoff game. You got to give him his respect. We're talking about Peyton Manning. Rex Grossman gave him a Super Bowl. So at the end of the day, even if you don't play the best game, you win. A win's a win. But Stroud, as the slightly more veteran guy at this point, who has played in a couple more playoff games, who we think that, again, can be one of those playoff level quarterbacks, and with this roster and this defense being as good as it is, he should have definitely, with the way that they were playing in this game, he should have definitely have won this game. And, again, the Patriots defense is one of the best in the league this year, flying around, a lot of takeaways, was obviously very active in this one. But it did seem a little bit more of the decision-making stuff for Stroud, where, the Texans defense themselves is still, physical, flying around, all the different stuff, but maybe even a little bit better play-to-play on getting stops and actually containing the Patriots offense. And again, for May as well, too, it's still only a little bit of a difference, but his second playoff game compared to the fact that this is going to be Stroud's 6. Stroud's played in 3 times as many playoff games as Drake May. Should he have a ability to figure it out there a little bit in some stuff as well, in some possessions as well, maybe that should be the case too. But you see the first playoff run, those 2 games, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, and then he's been 2 touchdowns, 2 picks combined in the last 2 playoffs, and now 2 for 2. So they were able to win one as kind of an underdog team last year, and that was a good morale boost for another season that was kind of maybe a little bit choppy in the regular season. And was Stroud injured in 24 as well? I guess we could go back and look at his regular season games played. But yeah, they had a lost 3 out of 4, I guess like a 4 out of 6 stretch there in the middle of the regular season. I guess Stroud he played every game. Davis Mills just threw 36 passes for some reason, 12 picks. But they did have that little bit of a dip down in the middle of the season, and then 10-7. So for them to end up getting a playoff win, a pretty dominant playoff win as well too, looking back at it, against the Chargers, was again pretty encouraging for them going forward. But now you do want to start to see them break through on that next level. And there was a little bit of a level of, just locked inness as well too. I don't know if we can say that, but there was a level of locked inness that I think the Patriots had as well compared to the Texans. And I don't know if that's Vrabel versus DeMeco Ryans. And Vrabel, again, he does first year with the Patriots, and those Titan teams weren't necessarily like vaunted Titans teams, but he was working with a different level of quarterback as well too with the Titans teams. And yes, Derrick Henry was a menace, and those defenses were able to get stops at times as well. But again, that playmaking quarterback factor, the upset that they have there right now, is great. And the defense that he has right now is probably his best playmaking defense that he's had as well. I know we could go back and double check some. I guess he did have Byard in Tennessee. Speaking of Byard, shout out, of course, in this game here with the Bears and the Rams. So, we had that Tennessee team go into a conference championship game. Kevin Byard, Joe Thuney. Like, maybe this isn't as complicated. I don't know. Because with these other rookie quarterbacks having this run, and again, as much as we're sitting here talking about, Stroud and what the perception of him is as a quarterback in the league right now, the fundamentals of how they built this team is still pretty applicable. What are we looking for the Titans for here, Chet? Ayo. Now I'm getting distracted. I don't remember what we're... Oh, Vrabel. We're looking to see who they had on the teams back in the day. Shout out. Lost the conference game as a 9-7 team in 2019 and then had a better regular season record the next 2 years, even though they fell a little bit shorter in the playoffs. But let's see here. Who was on this defense? I'm assuming Simons, younger Simons on this team. Adoree Jackson. A.J. Brown on defense making tackles. I think that's Tannehill throwing some interceptions. Logan Ryan, Rashawn Evans, Jayon Brown. A pretty fun linebacker core there. Kenny Vaccaro, underrated, of course. Harold Landry, still getting paid these days. Jarrell Casey, a stud. So Malcolm Butler, again, very professional, very above average, a lot of starters. Amani Hooker, a couple of good years for sure. But, having if we're going back to the Texans a little bit as well, too, and the Patriots in general, even the Bears and even the Commanders last year. We always talk about what the formula is for building the teams, but it's actually this is actually these teams doing it, and they draft the rookie quarterback, and they actually spend on the veteran talent. And I know that, again, that's like a simple thing that we've thought. It maybe even going back to the Seahawks, the Legion of Doom with Russell Wilson and having that flexibility of a rookie quarterback and the early on salary. But how often do the teams actually go out and spend? And it's not even all the time just spending on, getting the top 4 guys in free agency. And I know the Bears have not even just this past free agency, but they've got Edmonds and other classes, and they've spent on guys that, again, maybe are the top of the class and overpaid for that versus the positional value and building do we have to sign a guy that's only a left tackle if we're signing max contracts guys, and we're signing only, specific types of players and only certain players because we only need all pros and stuff like that. It's again, I guess Byard and some of these guys have gotten to that level in the past as well too. But it's just, with the Commanders bringing in Bobby Wagner last year and a bunch of other veteran guys that have been in big games, and maybe you would look at him on the face value and be like, okay, individually, is Bobby Wagner still a guy that would be the best player on a defense? He was still getting to some of those levels in the Commanders. But you assemble this collection of those veterans, and then you have that leadership and that capability at the quarterback spot. All of these teams now are having a little bit of success from playoff runs. And again, these are maybe a little bit more special of quarterback talent as well too. So you have to hit both sides of it. But again, it's not like these teams went out and signed all the flashiest free agents. I don't know if we were looking at Joe Thuney and, again, Kevin Byard and the collection of guys they've gotten in the past as this was going to be the Super Bowl winning combo. But it was a major upgrade, and they've been able to, like we're saying, hang in these games, make plays, compete, and they've had a guy that has been able to close out drives for them. And yes, he has that future, could he be the franchise guy for the next 10 years, all different stuff. And that stuff is very important as well too. I mean, the marketability of all that stuff, even outside of just playing in the game. But if we're just talking about constructing a team, just having a guy that can captain an offense on a salary that allows you to have that flexibility. It's yes, we know that this is important, but these teams actually went out and, made a little bit of an investment in the rest of their roster. And again, are the Bears going to win the Super Bowl? We don't even really know yet at this point. If they walk away in the divisional round, is that a little bit of an earlier exit for a point that we're trying to make? I don't know. But regardless, this was from them being a 5-win team last year, still a major upgrade. And like we're saying, the Commanders with that formula were in the conference championship game last year, and the Patriots with this formula have been are in the conference championship game this year. I mean, the Broncos as well. The Broncos are in the conference championship with this formula. Stafford, the pressure gets to him. They chop the football as he tries to throw it. I think they call it incomplete. But it was looking like it was on fumble territory there. That's for sure. I mean, the Rams ended up getting it either way. But Sweat was the one that was able to make contact. I guess the arm was going forward. So, yeah, good call. Shout out the refs I guess every now and then they are good at their job. But yeah, the defensive line for the Bears as well too. We can't forget about. Shout out like we were saying, the Rams defensive line. But Sweat was a guy that when they traded for him, that's another perfect example. Is Sweat, are you getting Myles Garrett? Are you getting Micah Parsons? Are you making the big flashy star player move? But you're getting a Pro Bowl pass rusher that can make big plays and get to the quarterback on third down when you need him and create a turnover once a game. And, maybe even the accumulative value of not having to trade 3 to 4 first, again, maybe that's NBA trades, but not having to trade the future for one player. And you can actually go out and get a couple moves. And I guess the Bears as well too, they did, like we're saying, have the benefit of a very successful trade. Like they got a good haul for that number 1 pick, in which the Panthers wanted to go up and get Bryce Young, and were able to maximize those picks as well too. But like with the Raiders right now with Mendoza, and they still have to figure out the coaching stuff as well too. And are they 1 season away if they do this model? I don't know, but it's like, okay, this is obviously the path. And again, we know this, but are you going to do this? And I think some teams as well too, again, they just almost try to build through the draft, and that's not a bad thing. But I don't know if the NFL is the NBA in that sense, where you can can we go tank 3 seasons in a row and get multiple players and build these championship teams? I'm sure there's examples in NFL history of that happening, but the NFL and the NBA has obviously got the consistent sort of teams that are, welcome to the draft lottery. It's the same teams every year, but the NFL has those teams as well too, maybe even a little bit more consistently, and the hierarchies are a little bit more set in terms of which teams are going to be good. And, that could all obviously stem to ownership and management and all the different stuff from these franchises. And, obviously once you have the owner, you have the owner. So who knows how long the tenure can be, where if that's the precedent, then, it can just be that way for a while. 3rd and 11, Stafford. Oh, chat. He's at an interception ball a quarter in this game. That one was down the sideline. Brisker was in coverage. This time it was actually to Puka, but Brisker, I think, had a better opportunity to get that than Nakua did. It is what it is. But, again, it seems like, we have to get the other young stars. Like the Packers, I think, are a little bit like this right now as well too. We can go back and double check some of their free agency moves. Like they went out and got McKinney and stuff. So they have been, and Josh Jacobs, like they have been, I guess trading for Micah Parsons, I guess they have been, aggressive as well too. And they've been doing a good job of maybe just more accumulating players on the same timeline is probably more of what it is than, actually them going out and getting veteran guys. But either way, or the Giants. Like the Giants right now and the Raiders, like spend. I don't know if we have to do a, SPO track check real quick to see who is in free agency. But the Raiders is, like we're saying, and I guess the Giants as well too. Like both those teams have a lot of studs throughout the entire course of the roster. Like you have offensive and defensive building block pieces that you can build around in the really important positions, as well too, where your defensive line, cornerstone defensive pieces are set in a good way as well too. I mean, obviously the Giants defensive line is really, really talented, but the Raiders obviously with Crosby and Wilson emerging there a little bit. And I don't know, we have to go back and check Malcolm Kuntz's numbers this year. Is he still there? But, with Bowers and stuff, like they've got a couple of pieces that you can work with. Hendrickson, Mike Evans, Khalil Mack, Christian Kirk, Deebo Samuel, Braden Smith, Jonah Williams, Joe Batonio, if I'm going to say his name right, going to be 34. But you get him on a 2 to 3 year deal. That could be a good move. Or Wyatt Teller as well too. Like some of these Browns offensive linemen could be interesting. I don't know if you'd want to sign the whole Browns offensive line back, but maybe one or two of them. Anya Meta. There's Kuntz, our guy Malcolm Kuntz, shout out, is going to be a free agent this year. So I guess we'll see, how good he is when he hits the market. They'll prove. Kyle Pitts. I mean, I'm assuming you would just re-sign Kyle Pitts. You don't want to lose Kyle Pitts, but maybe he's a guy that, would be available if teams want to make a play. John Franklin Myers, see, it's like those types of moves. Again, Denver getting him from the Jets for sure. I don't remember if they traded for him or not. But you sign John Franklin Myers and then Kenneth Murray, and maybe you need one more, big name. Jamel Dean. You get John Franklin Myers, Jamel Dean, and Duggar, and then your defense is basically going to win a Super Bowl at that point. Is that what we're saying? I don't know. Maybe it depends on the free agency class as well too. So 2 free agency classes. You draft well once, and then 2 free agency classes is what we're saying. I guess maybe we can check the entire scope as well too. Jennings as a wide receiver. Jonathan Jones corner. Oh, Shaheed is gonna maybe get himself a contract. Cameron Curl could see himself get a little salary raise potentially on a $4.5 million contract right now for the Rams. And again, this Rams team is of course having success, so those guys do usually get poached off to other teams when they hit the market. But could we go 2027 free agents as well too to continue to see there? But that is, you have to be somewhat actually aggressive in free agency. And the Colts would be a team that, would probably not quite pull the trigger on some moves that they would need to all the time if they were going to be building around the draft in this way. It seems like that they're going to be building the roster around Daniel Jones and obviously still going in more of obviously always trying to pursue having the veteran quarterback versus building through the draft. But again, just as an example of maybe team habits, like that's a team that would draft a guy in the top 4 and, maybe a little bit with Anthony Richardson as well too, and not always be the most willing to just spend all the most in free agency and bring in a good veteran group of guys to build around. And, again, depending on the player, maybe you bring in Anthony Richardson, maybe Anthony Richardson with the veteran group of guys is not ready to compete and win for a Super Bowl. I'm just saying that is the formula that, again, we know is the one that you should be following in the NFL, but is not the one that people actually seem to follow sometimes when they get the quarterback. And the Texans have been fortunate enough to draft well as well too, in getting, like Will Anderson and Derek Stingley in the draft. Maybe they would be a one to spend a little bit more. I don't know. Do the Jags have they made some moves this offseason? I don't remember if they did lose some guys, but their defense did get better. So it's difficult to say that was the wrong move. Demario Davis, bringing in a 37-year-old Demario Davis in the offseason would be an interesting move. Hey, yo, chat, the studio Wi-Fi is shutting down. The computer's locking up. Peacock! Oh, chat! Hey, yo! You hate to see it. Hopefully it's not just us. Do we have to go to the internet and see what's going on here? Hey, yo, we'll get a reload. I think hopefully it's just spazzing the one time. Okay, there we go. I think that might have just been us. Hopefully it's just us, because that's more fixable than if Peacock goes down. I'm not sure. Pause. Whoa, hey, yo. But if NBC goes down, they probably have better technicians to get it back up and running. So, I guess it's a give or take there. It is what it is. But IT, check the Twitters and see if NBC is working for everybody else. It is what it is. But it's still a little baffling that you don't just call the streaming service NBC, especially now. But it is getting a little, Peacock, like people just say it. So, it is what it is. Maybe we just got to grow up a little bit. I don't know. But Verse with the stop on 3rd and 1. So the Bears being aggressive again. I don't know if the weather could play a factor in the field goal attempts here. A 50-yard field goal in the snow is definitely not an ideal attempt, but the defensive line for the Rams gets right in there and stops it. Pause. So turnover on downs, not the worst field position, especially with kickoffs now. This is honestly better than a kickoff. 3 points to give them 5 yards. That's probably why they say go for it. Advanced analytics is like if you get the 3 points, they're actually going to start with better field position. Just go ahead and just try the 4th down. But the run straight up the middle, kind of off the tackle there, a little, I don't want to say predictable, but clearly the Rams were able to overwhelm that right away. So they went for the pass on that 4th and goal. I don't know if you go for a pass there and then kind of let Caleb Williams create with his legs if he needs to on a 4th and 1, or if you just try to tush push. But it seems like in 2025, if you can still tush push, 2026, you can still tush push. You have to do that in those short yardage situations. That might have been a longer pause than maybe a tush push would have called for, but just a standard run. Not to say that you can't have great run blocking in 2026, but we know that, and obviously it's not the Eagles, but you should be able to execute the tush push successfully. I don't know. That's our hot take. It is what it is. Tush push. It should be easy. These teams should be able to do it. Pause. So if you're within a yard, we shouldn't just be handing it off to the running back. Let's get the quarterback. Do we say we get his tush pushed? I don't know. Hey, yo, that might be a pause. It is what it is. But yeah, the Stroud. I don't want to. Again, it's not the NBA, so I don't want to immediately go Stroud trade machine in a case like this. But this is, again, a situation where I don't think Texans fans are as, I want to sit here and say he's not as beloved to Texans fans. And, again, he's only been there for 3 years and not as valuable, would seem a little bit harsh as well, too, in phrasing. But, just the trade value, like we're saying, Texans fans wouldn't have traded him for anybody after that first year. They're like, Mahomes? I mean, Mahomes is not on a rookie contract. So we'll just take Stroud. But I was thinking in this kind of weird QB class, I think the Raiders probably 2 months ago, does the number 1 overall pick, would you have traded that for Stroud pretty easily? But I feel like you might have been able to talk yourself into the certainty of a guy that we've seen be good in the NFL versus the quote-unquote uncertainty of what this class has been. But, and it's obviously specific to Mendoza playing well in the playoffs as well, too. And, us assuming that they're just going to continue to just walk down Miami tomorrow night. Stay tuned for the REMINGTOM pod as we watch that happen. Hey, yo, that'll be, I guess, fun, no fun. I don't know what it'll be. We'll just have to stay tuned and see. I guess, tomorrow live here on the YouTube. Follow along. But, for the certainty of guys in the league, the immediate impact of this pick, there was not the same type of projected hype around it compared to some of these other guys. And again, Mendoza is kind of the only one. So I know that maybe Dart and Cam Ward are, they're definitely going to be there for a couple of years, maybe. Definitely a couple of years for the Titans and the Giants. And Shador will be there for, at least a couple of weeks. Oh, we got him, Chad. Hey, yo. No, we're pro Shador, so, we hope Shador is the starter for the 2026 season as well, too. I don't think you would trade Stroud for Shador quite yet, but if there was picks involved, if it was Shador and picks, you might have to think about it. So, I don't know, Arizona, the Jets have 2 first-round picks. Like, Arvell Reese is crazy. Ruben Bain, if you could get Ruben Bain at any point, that's a difficult guy to trade for. I mean, but I think that's maybe even more. What's the legal term for it? I'm not sure. I think it's more incriminating. That's the word I'm looking for. It's more incriminating for CJ Stroud. Hey, yo, that I think you would honestly look at the draft at this point and say some of those defensive edge rushers like Arvell Reese and Ruben Bain, again, you'd really have to think about it. And we're talking about a quarterback that has been really, really amazing in playoff games. So maybe I'm being a little too dramatic in terms of what we saw this playoffs and in this season. And, again, Nico Collins was hurt a lot of the year. A lot of his weapons, Woody Marks got hurt in that game, and it was like, is he going to be he's the only guy that can move the ball for him on offense. But that was also, again, because Stroud was not hitting passes as well, too. I think the reason in this mock that you have the receivers at 4 and 5 is because of those quarterback picks. And I mean, imagine if the Giants took another receiver in the top 5, Malik Neighbors and Jordan Tyson, you'd almost be, you'd be pressuring yourself to have the greatest offense of all time. It'd be almost unfair to your own team. Hey, yo, Jeremiah Love, we've got 3 weapons in the top 10. I don't know what that says about this draft class, but That seems a little higher compared to the way we've been viewing the draft the last couple of years. I guess the receivers have been taken highly. It is what it is. But yeah, Bane. But again, like we're saying, Bane and Reese are like legitimate franchise defensive cornerstones, and you would always still at the end of the day pick the quarterback. But that would be the next closest blank slate thing that you would take if you're building a team. Maybe outside of a left tackle as well too. It's quarterback and then left tackle / edge rusher, whichever one whichever best player available of the linemen is better is essentially what you're going to take. But, in this case, obviously it's Bane and Reese, and we're going to gravitate toward the guy named Bane. It is what it is. So I think Ruben Bane would be technically our number 2 pick, but either way, Arvell Reese being 3. Like, it's just a matter of preference, I guess, at this point. But I think you would legitimately look at that and go, I don't know if you would give up a rookie edge rusher that could be as dynamic as Ruben Bane for a questionable quarterback on a, what's his salary as well too. He is only in his 3rd year, so I guess he's not up for being a free agent yet, but at least the talks of what the contract extension would be are there. And I'm assuming because of the regular season wins and because of the overall, the box scores are, they're professional level box scores. Is he worse than like Kirk Cousins at the end of the day? Like, again, is he good enough to get in the NFL? He's probably good enough to get an NFL starting contract. But in terms of, like we're saying, that mentality, it is definitely the where we would rank him in these arbitrary lists. It definitely is getting a little bit more interesting. Like, I would have had him in a totally different class than a guy like Bo Nix going into the season, even going into the playoffs as well too, as to be like, hey, maybe the playoffs is the time when CJ Stroud, the Texans defense, maybe everything locks in, offensively as well too for Houston. But the way that both the seasons played out for those guys, I think that would Broncos fans rather have CJ Stroud. Again, I think that would go back to just the draft hype and what we saw in college as well too, of CJ Stroud being really, really special in some of those playoff games. But Bo Nix can captain that team in some of these late game situations, as competently as you need him to. Like, as competently as anybody, but as competent as you need him to get you to the AFC Championship game. And Stroud has been a little careless in the last couple of years. It is what it is. So I'm still not saying that, are we there yet? I think that'd be a credit to Bo Nix as well too. But just the vibes of that whole Houston scenario, it is a weird that it has turned as quickly as it has. But, as AFC South rivals, as AFC South contenders, we're not going to be complaining there. But it is one of those things that, is this just the way it is now? Was that just a flash in the pan season and it all worked out great, that rookie year and really took the league by storm and he was just in a zone or something? Or, will he bounce back and be able to actually be one of those top guys? But, again, how many quarterbacks can be the best quarterback in for a contender at the best quarterback league? I guess there can be a ton of guys that can be talented. It can be like the NBA, I guess, where maybe you could say at a given season, are there 9 guys in the NBA right now that could be on first team All NBA, depending on how the season goes? Again, it's like, are there 9 guys right now that you can make the case for? I don't know if it's that many, but are there 9 names that if you just start the season over and go, okay, this guy is going to replay it and probably be on first team All NBA, you could definitely make the case there. Does the NFL have, how many of those types of quarterbacks? Like, do you get where you're going to have the Super Bowl playoff confidence year to year? Maybe that number shifts a little bit. Maybe it is still Stroud is right on the outside of that. Again, he would have been in the list. And, this whole class of guys, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels as well, too. Maybe Jaden Daniels benefiting this year from not playing. And maybe those guys are a little bit more on the same tier. It's tough because, we haven't seen Jaden Daniels play like this in the playoffs. So, maybe we have to rank him over Stroud for that reason. And then, you have your legacy tier guys as well, too, like we're saying with the Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Stafford group of guys, even Herbert as well. At this point, I don't know if Herbert and Stroud are definitely above each other. Trevor Lawrence, like Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud. 2 years ago, where were we at with Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud? It wasn't even close. Where Stroud was way, way better. And, it's the ebbs and flows, like we're saying, of how the league works, and it's a credit to those guys for being able to recover their own careers as well too. But just a baffling amount of turnovers and a baffling level of not being able to just seemingly not. And again, who am I to sit here on the couch and say this? But seemingly just not being able to digest things. Pause. This is digestion issues for CJ Stroud. Hey yo, I don't know what kind of playbook fiber he needs to take. Chat. Look at us with the dietary humor over here. But what type of playbook fiber does this guy need? Hey yo, it seemed like there was, from that rookie season, it's that mindset of things are only going to get better from here. And he's got the athleticism, the escapability, and it was his calmness and his ability to execute versus the blitz, which set him apart of, it was legitimately the quarterbacks in the league at that point. He was that season like the best quarterback against the blitz, if I'm not mistaken. He's dynamic, and the pressure the last couple of years have just completely gotten to him. And that's just again, I don't want to motivate the Ohio State guy to set the league on fire next year. Hey yo, it is what it is. It's like, fortunately he's not doing it at Ohio State. Pause. But I mean, he did do it at Ohio State. For the couple years that he was there, he's not doing it there anymore. But he's still directly competing against us, so we're not, we're still feeling the impact of the CJ Stroud performances when they are there. But it does seem like when you could, and that was, there is that unstoppability factor against him as well too, where it's like, well, if we pressure him and he just destroys us when we pressure him, how do we beat this guy? Pause. Like, how do we get a win versus this team? But now, if you can get this guy moving out of the pocket and get him thrown off the run, that's like exactly what you want. And it seems like the accuracy is not there, and his confidence, just to say it simply, like, it just seems like the confidence and the swagger that he used to play with that first year, and it's funny that maybe today is the day that this happens as well too, where Caleb Williams is playing in the next game, but it sneaky does go back to that moment as well too. I don't know if we can do a stat check real quick on Stroud's career since that moment. I mean, he's only had 3 seasons, so it's not going to be difficult to find when the last time he played the Bears. But for those of you that may not know, there was a moment when, I don't want to say the last time the Texans played the Bears, might have been the only time that CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams have played each other so far. After the game, CJ Stroud was trying to, give him like veteran advice. Like, CJ Stroud had been in the league for a while, and, he had been successful up until that point, but it was in year 2. So he was, a year and a half and 2 playoff games into his career. And he's over here giving the number 1 overall pick, advice. I'm sure in some ways, at any point, getting advice from veteran talent is going to be a good thing. But maybe that type of separation is not quite what you're looking for from an advice standpoint. Was this week 2 game? It wasn't even halfway through the year. It was literally week 2. He was 2-0 after that game. So I guess we include that game because he was 260 yards and a touchdown. So it was 19 weeks. I guess he only played 15 games in the rookie season. So it was 17 games of success for CJ Stroud. Literally 1 good season of play. And then it all fell off after that. I guess not immediately in the win-loss part of it, because they did win. They lost to Minnesota 7-34 the week after that. So that was funny. We immediately made fun of him for it. And then he did win 3 in a row. So that's good. And then you see after that, it would really be since this Green Bay game as well, if we were able to do a stat check here. I guess, shout out, of course, from a winning perspective, they were able to really turn it around at the end of the year. Was Davis Mills playing in some of these games? Davis Mills might have. Maybe not all the ones that they won. I don't know there. But here, let me see if we can get this going on another screen here. See if we get these stats figured out. If that is like a line of demarcation for CJ Stroud's career. But yeah, I mean, I just have to be honest with where I'm at. And, like anything, I guess I'm not trying to sit here and say that I'll be a fan that is, we'll just change our mind all the time. But I think if you are evaluating this stuff, you do have to be honest with what you're seeing in the moment as well, too. Do I still believe CJ Stroud could turn his career around? And, again, what do we say? Turn his career around. Maybe a little bit aggressive, but for the vague phrasing of it, do I still believe that he can turn his career around? Okay, here we go. We finally got the numbers. And be that guy again? Absolutely. But if I'm just ranking where I believe he's at this moment with the way he's been playing right now, and as of recently, I would not have, obviously, like I'm saying, rank him as highly as favorably as we would have. It is what it is. So those first 17 games, he was 4,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 101.3 QB rating. So, once again, those 17 games spanned 2 seasons technically. And not to just cut out his 3-game winning streak, in which he had 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions in a game against Jacksonville. But if we go since week 7 of 2024 against Green Bay, all the way up until week 18 versus Indy of week 2025, I guess, was that actually technically January? Yes, it was 2026. So 25 games for CJ Stroud. He is at 207 yards a game, 29 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, and an 87.2 QB rating, 59 sacks. So, the pressure is definitely there. 6 fumbles, 3 of them lost in 25 games. So, there, again, it's just been a definite step back at this point where I think, unfortunately, after these last couple of runs, he's just kind of put himself in a different tier of guys. And maybe he was already there. I don't know if you would have been necessarily, throughout the course of this last year. Again, with the way Herbert was playing, you're definitely not ranking him over Herbert. Even if the teams and were a bit even there, and maybe even the Texans team themselves was a little bit more set up for success at times than the Chargers team. Or a guy like Prescott, Prescott versus Stroud, again, like we're saying, trade values, contracts, timelines, Prescott in his 30s. I get all the cases as to why you would do the trades either way. Maybe the Cowboys do the trade because they want the younger quarterback and they want to reset the franchise, and maybe the Texans do the trade because they're like, well, we want to win now and we need the veteran. Or maybe the Cowboys, but the Cowboys would have done that trade 2 years ago. You would have had to have done that trade. And now I think the Cowboys would say no. I think you would have to say no to Dak Prescott for CJ Stroud. As crazy as it sounds, for a quarterback in their 30s, for, again, a quarterback that I guess you're going to have to pay soon as well too. So that part's going to be, a moot deal. I don't know if it's a 1-for-1, maybe you just have to reset. Maybe it's like a Luka for Davis situation. You're just like, well, I guess we just have to take, they're giving us Luka. I guess we just have to take it. But I don't think, but I don't think it's quite that. With all due respect to CJ Stroud, I don't know if it's quite, Luka Doncic all 3 years. He definitely had some Luka Doncic level moments, and that first season was a Luka Doncic, that level of potential was definitely there. But it's like if Luka has just, I was going to throw out, who's Luka played like over the last 2 years? Throw out a name, I don't know if that'd be fair to them. But if Luka just, had not played well in the playoffs, the times he's been in the playoffs, if he had that first playoff run against the Clippers where he's like, did he hit a game-winning shot that first playoff series, like 40 points a game, and he's just going off. It's like, okay, it's just like, it's just like the MJ series versus the Celtics, where he's just putting up crazy numbers, but still losing. And then if he just followed up those playoff series where it's like, okay, Luka Doncic is 36% from the field, 27% from 3, and they lost in 5. I mean, he did have his questions in terms of what happened in the playoffs, but he has been to a finals as well too. So he has also answered some of those in terms of what the team's potential could be. But in terms of his individual performance, if he had followed that up with, again, poor percentages, more turnovers than assists, they lose in 5. The next year they don't even make it. They lose in the play-in game, and he doesn't even play well in the fourth quarter and misses a free throw at the end of the game. It's just like, okay, we get that he was a prodigy, but all of a sudden these performances are not adding up to whereas on the other end of it, Luka was in these series against the Clippers just like balling out. And like we're saying, the 40s. He was putting up 40s and game winners every year versus the Clippers. Unfortunately, the Clippers had 7 games to make up for it, but it would be the worst time of year for LA fans and for Ballmer. He had to create a whole fake company to try to continue to build this team up to get past these playoff series. It was crazy, historic individual series scoring stuff that Luka was doing, and it's like, okay, you give him teammates, you give him better opportunities, better home court, I don't know, whatever kind of advantages you can continue to give him. I'm assuming the team will continue to be more successful. And Stroud, unfortunately, again, is just from the playoff side of things. Even if the team had been coming up short, it's been a little bit of the other way. The team has won some games, but the defense has been really good, and Stroud has, not necessarily played perfectly, like we're saying. So, I guess we hate to spend the first half just bummed out about quarterback performances with Josh Allen and CJ Stroud. But at the end of the day, I don't know if this is the other thing we learned about this playoff run, learned about ourselves about this playoff run as well too. But just how much we really hate the Patriots, I guess, wasn't even really confirmed until we saw them be good again. Because, again, this is the first time that they've actually been good post Tom Brady in a real way. Were they good the year with Mac Jones? They had a good season without Tom Brady. They weren't good without Tom Brady. This Patriots team is obviously good. They're basically staring at a Super Bowl appearance right now with what they're looking at in the AFC with the incredible stroke of luck that they've had. But again, we've only ever cheered against Tom Brady on that team. So I didn't know if we were anti-Tom Brady or we are anti-Patriots. And maybe it is still, we're anti-Patriots, obviously, because of the fact that just Tom Brady destroyed us every year. It is what it is. But it is still, we hate the organization. It runs deep, chat. Hey, yo, pause. I didn't realize it. I thought maybe that we were more mature than that and that we could watch Patriots games and let them be successful with new players and new groups of guys and new personalities, new storylines. Again, things to actually... Drake May, he's a great guy. Who doesn't love Drake May? Football family or, sports family. Luke May hit the game winner for North Carolina in March Madness once. It's just a jolly old good time over there at the May household. And Mike Vrabel is, who doesn't love Mike Vrabel, one of the toughest, most lovable teddy bear coaches in the league. And you just keep going down the, who doesn't love Stephon Diggs? He's just the most lovable guy in the entire league. So, there's just so many things to love about this Patriots team. But hey, yo, chat, the Patriots jersey, the Patriots logo, oh, the PTSD, the trauma, it's real. It's real. And, again, not to just sit here and motivate Drake May. I know Mike Vrabel is listening, and he's about to clip this out and play it for the team on Monday. But maybe Drake May doesn't obviously, quite have the fear factor of Brady yet. So that's, at least something that has still not been replicated from that fandom perspective of rooting against the Patriots. But, I mean, man, it really sucks to watch the Patriots win games, I tell you, in the playoffs. It is what it is. And really watch them be set up for success for a lot of years as well, too. Is really, really awful. Stafford overthrows Devontae Adams, chat. 14 seconds. They're trying to get it in the end zone here. They are in field goal range, so they can tie it up. A tied up first half would be, 7-10 is not bad as well, too. But we'll take the double digits from both teams, both offenses getting their opportunities here to match each other. In 14 seconds left, I guess the Bears could create havoc on this play specifically. But you would assume that the Rams would hopefully be able to manage this to run out the half. 2nd and 10. So Stafford, no throwing to the sideline, no pick sixes. It's all just back corner of the end zone, overthrows. Yep, one-on-one. You just got to play it safe. I guess if they were able to interception, touchback, they probably just end up going out, take a knee, something safe like that. So you're probably not risking anything on a interception run back in that way. And you are able to get the quick throws, and maybe the sack fumble scenario is off the field as well. So, again, I hate to be negative about the playoffs after such a great playoffs. It is what it is, because it's a great win for the Broncos. It is, I guess, a great win for the Patriots, even though we're going to talk about how much we're gonna how much we hate the Patriots. It is what it is. And then I guess, the Seattle game, a little unforgettable. So, maybe no bummer result there per se. I guess, we are pro Shanahan here on this pod, but for the most part, that game is just, for the most part, we just kind of went an entertaining game there. But, okay, so the Rams will get the field goal attempt here with 3 seconds left in the half. But I do think that those were some of the, again, the bigger legacy plays. And those are the teams that are going home as well, too. So we have to, maybe mention them before the teams that go on. But, yeah, for Allen in terms of the legacy stuff and for Stroud in terms of the immediate stuff, like there was some definite sort of, again, reset, sort of hit the brakes, take a step back, reevaluate what is going on from those perspectives. But yes, chat. Hey, yo, like I said, man, we hate the Patriots. And I think we gotta, I mean, I guess, do we just gotta keep saying we hate the Patriots? We'll talk about it more in the second half. Make no mistake. We've also, got to talk a little bit about that Seahawks versus Niners game, I would imagine. And this game has been close. So I would imagine the Bears in fourth quarter drama, I'm guessing that's where this is going, chat. It would be amazing if the Bears weren't in fourth quarter drama. Well, I guess that means they could be getting, the Rams could score a lot, but would that mean the Bears score a lot? I don't know. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Second half, NFC divisional round, the last of the final 4 teams, chat. Here we go. One of these teams will make the Super. Oh, I guess no. That's not necessarily true. Ayo, because the Seahawks could also make the Super Bowl. But one of these teams will be playing the Seahawks. We know that for sure. So I guess we'll stay tuned for the second half to find out who that is and more right after this. All right, chat, we're back, and I don't know what it says about the halftime crew, Jason Garrett and Tony Dungy, about their coaching careers, but there's like, what do you think about the first half? And Garrett's like, well, I think both teams played well. They got to 10 points, and Dungy's like, I like field goals too. So, both of them, again, in the booth. Shout out. Dungy, well-deserved at this point in the Hall of Fame. Legendary, groundbreaking coach. We say nothing bad about Tony Dungy. I don't know if he was the most aggressive coach over the course of his career, but, again, a Hall of Famer for better or worse. So shout out. Again, legendary guy. Garrett's like, hey, if I coached as good as Sean McVay, if I got a half as good as Sean McVay, I'd still be coaching. It is what it is. But is Garrett gonna get interviewed? I thought I heard something about Garrett getting interviewed for some of these jobs. Hey, yo, shout out. He's coached with Cowboys for a decade, so I guess that has to mean something in a way. But we do have to, I guess, talk about, unfortunately, what is going to be, I guess, the major storyline, the weirdest storyline. We just have to start with the basic Google search. What happened to Bo Nix? Because we know at this point that he is out for the AFC Championship game. He's out for the season with a broken ankle, if I wanted to say. And I guess the people out there are searching. It is what it is. I don't know what the most searched thing on Google right now, but Bo Nix ankle injury might have just passed it at this point. We might have to check the stats. Fractured ankle during it was the second to last play of the game in overtime. The injury occurred when Nix was pulled to the ground by Bills safeties Cole Bishop, leading to a knee to the ground. Despite a slight limp after the play, Nix moved quickly back to the huddle. He then seen taking a kneel down during the next couple plays. So I guess we have to take. Oh, I guess it's citing ESPN here. We'll click the ESPN article instead of just relying on the Google AI to take care of us for it. Pause or SI, whoever. We'll try to find it from the source. But they did just go to the kneel downs right at the end instead of trying to get like the last couple of yards and risk, the turnovers and all the different stuff for the touchdown. So I don't know if the potential of like, hey, I'm not necessarily feeling 100% after that play. They're like, okay, we'll just go ahead. We have the field goal right here. We'll just go ahead and take the field goal. But yeah, he said on the second to last play of overtime, Bo fractured a bone in his right ankle. He's scheduled to have surgery on Tuesday of this week, which will put him out for the season. Hey, yo. Chad, I hate to do this right when we got back. I just realized I set my water down off screen. Hey, yo. We'll be right back. Give us a second, chat. Second to last play. I guess what'll be... Okay, we had a Bo Nix joke there. It is what it is. We'll be right back. Okay, here we are. I think our sponsor might have moved it off screen to get another ad in there. So we're good to go now. We're back here. We got a little refresh. A little hydrate for the second half. But, yeah. Hey, yo. Unfortunately, Bo Nix is down and out for the season. And this is obviously one of the major impact injuries. But... in general, obviously, again, a credit to Bo Nix for how important he's become to this team. And I was trying to think about him in comparison a little bit to Carson Beck with what we've seen for Miami. And, as we continue to try to battle Wi-Fi struggles here, it's confirmed that it's not NBC having issues. It is what it is. But with Carson Beck this year in Miami, there's been a wide range of opinions as to what his status is in terms of quarterback in college football. And, you can even check the tapes for us. Like, early in the season, it's like, well, we got to give him his credit. He's been in national championship games. He's playing well to start the year. He has this team looking like a top competitive team. But the losses that they had over the course of the year for Miami are directly tied to some of his performances. And there are definite ways that they call the games that are reflective of maybe the trust process that they have of their quarterback. But he does step up in fourth quarters and in last minute drives, at least over the last couple of games. He has really stepped up and carried this team down the field a couple of times for, game winning, game leading type of plays. And, again, as much as we could sit here and debate how we view him in college football, how many quarterbacks would you rather have over Carson Beck? Where would he go at in the NFL draft? Is he the number 2 guy behind Mendoza? Is he even a guy that would go in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft? But regardless, if you've needed him in a couple of fourth quarters to step up, and he's still stepped up, will it even go down to the fourth quarter in the last couple of drives, I guess, against Indiana? Is ultimately going to be the question. Will Carson Beck be playing in the fourth quarter is the question. Will the game be out of hand by then? Who knows? But for Bo Nix, again, is Bo Nix the 21st best quarterback in the league? I don't know exactly where he ranks. Again, is there a handful of guys that we could make the legacy case, and then we could make the individual talent, and then the high level plays that we've seen again compared to Stroud? Is Stroud this year though played better than Bo Nix? And for this year, I don't think you would trade Bo Nix for a guy like Stroud with what Bo Nix has done in the fourth quarters. Again, how hot takey do we want to get? Like, do we want to say that Broncos fans wouldn't trade Bo Nix for Justin Herbert? And now, with him being injured as well too, I think there is an extra level of protectiveness to the Bo Nix legacy of the 2025 season as well, because of it, not necessarily having a great ending and not being able to see him out there in the conference championship game. But with what he has been able to accomplish at the end of games for this team, in not only just keeping them in games, but there have been times where, again, they've needed extra performances. And yes, there have been games like that Giants game, if I'm not mistaken, was the one where they had the crazy all-time comeback. And, again, you have to, speaking of our guy Peyton Manning, like he said, a great fourth quarter comeback just means you played bad for 3 quarters. So there is that level of, like we're saying, is Bo Nix the best quarterback in the league for 4 quarters in a game? I don't know if he's necessarily proven that at this point, but he is a guy that has proven in the fourth quarter that he can, again, make big plays. Brock Purdy compared to Bo Nix. Brock Purdy play this year was probably better than Bo Nix. Brock Purdy was actually really, really great this year. And, the playoff game against the Seattle, as we get to, fell apart really quickly, unfortunately for him. But for the most part, he had a lot of responsibility in that 49ers offense. They were injured throughout the entire team, including, not having Ayuk and losing Deebo Samuel in the offseason, and just not having the same type of receiving weapons that you used to. I mean, they drafted Pearsall and stuff, so there's other ways to look at it, I guess. But again, just to rank guys, a different level of receiving talent than in the past, and was still able to have a really, really phenomenal season. I don't know if you would trade Bo Nix for Brock Purdy. For, again, would you go trade him for the whole season now, knowing that maybe you wouldn't get hurt at the second to last game of the divisional round? I don't know. Would you wouldn't go back and trade for Mahomes this year, because I guess he's going to get hurt in week 9. So, unless you want to tank the last couple of weeks, then that's your guy. But hey, Mahomes taking quarterback, like we've always said. Would you, like we said, you wouldn't trade Bo Nix for Patrick Mahomes this year, right? Patrick Mahomes can't get to the conference championship because he got hurt too soon. Again, is there a class? Is Stafford, Lamar, Josh Allen? Again, even Josh Allen, with as poorly as he plays, and that goes back to what we're saying in the legacy rankings. Josh Allen, with as poorly as he, quote unquote, as poorly as he played for Josh Allen in a high level playoff game with the perfect expectations that we have on him. With all that being said, with the level that he played at in that game and all the quote unquote shortcomings that he's had in the playoffs, you still would probably 10 out of 10 times go back and trade Bo Nix for Josh Allen. And again, that's the understanding of, obviously, maybe now Bo Nix in that Bills offense. Again, with respect to Bo Nix, the responsibility that he would have would probably be, and maybe even just for a year 2 guy in general, probably be a little unfair to ask for a guy in year 2. Like, you could say Drake May has a lot of responsibility in the Patriots offense, and that's for sure. Like, they trust him to sit back there and make reads, but guys get open, and for the most part, they've had an effective ground game this year. So again, the offense has been very functional around him. It's not just him all the time extending play. I mean, yeah, again, there has been parts of that. And against the Bills, he had that great play where he was able to create down the field and make something happen when they have needed him to step up and do those types of things. But there also has been, again, the side of things where the offense can just kind of function as a normal, well-flowing offense as well too. And shout out like Shakir and Keon Coleman, like they have good, again, it's good players. Hey yo, it's a little like we're saying in the NBA factor. There's just a lot of great receiving cores out there. A talented receiving core like Coleman and Shakir could just, with the talent in the league, be ranked in a different way. And maybe there's some cases where like when speaking of the Seahawks, would you just take that core because JSN, you could just have more impact with one receiver compared to, kind of two wide receiver 2 type of receivers. But, either way, like I'm saying, the questionable trades that it would take that elite tier of guy. It would take that almost unquestionable talent. Again, for this season, for just the crazy drama, for Broncos fans to trade Bo Nix. And again, that's a long walk from where we were at to start the year. But again, to compare it to Stroud, I kind of fully came and paused like, whoa. I did a 180. I was going to say came around, and just didn't finish the thought. Pause. I did a little bit of a 180 on the Bo Nix season. Is that a punt out at the 1 by the Rams? Where did that go out of bounds at? At the 4, 3 or 4? Okay, it was an impressive punt. It went right down the sideline and then ended up going out of bounds, but, it skirted right through the out-of-bounds side and then on the out-of-bounds side of the pylon, so I didn't quite see if it, which side of the pylon it ended up going down. Okay, yeah, it kind of went over the top of the pylon. So that is close. Did it touch the out-of-bounds? I guess I didn't really see there. I was watching more when it bounced up in the air. Whoa. What are we talking about here? We've totally derailed. But, back to Bo Nix. Like, I think it would take that elite class. Let's pull the list back up and see what we got going on here for those guys. You start saying again, like Drake May with the numbers that he had this year, and you start again thinking about the franchise future, and maybe there's a little bit more certainty there, but you can't say that the Broncos would have had a better regular season and a better season up until this point with Drake May as their quarterback. Prescott's like Prescott's another really good one. Would you trade Prescott for Bo Nix? Like, it's, again, it's close. It's chaos. It's not perfect, but the fourth quarters, he has been there for the team. 87.8 rating. He is right there with where Stroud was at for that stretch of games that we were looking at for him. Stroud in the season actually a little bit better, 92.3. Fewer turnovers, a little safer on the season for Stroud. You see Bo Nix leading the league in passing attempts as well too. Is pretty crazy. Prescott though leading the league in completions. I think Sean Payton probably would trade Prescott just in theory, go back and start the season with Prescott. Jalen Hurts, is a close call for sure. And Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So I think you would have to think that, obviously, but I don't know. Jordan Love, again, Jordan Love a little banged up this year. So, again, do we get a guy that's banged up all year or a guy that gets hurt up until the last game of the season? I don't know. But Burrow, so again, not to say that Bo Nix has ascended into the top 10 quarterback talents in the league, but there is a confidence, an end of game confidence that I was definitely starting to have with him in this season, and would have been genuinely confident going into a game against the Patriots. Again, I would say that Drake May is probably the better quarterback, and that always is a scary thing. But with the way he was able to, calmly navigate that game against Josh Allen, it's like, okay, again, not to say that he's going to perfectly do that against Drake May as well, too. The ability to be able to extend that over a stretch of games is, again, this literally gets filtered down to one team and one player every year for a reason. It's super difficult. But that is a confident situation I think we would have been in against that team. Vrabel as well, too, against McDermott is a coaching upgrade there. The Patriots are a better team. So, again, Bo Nix's abilities in that situation is still going to be a little bit more questioned. But and the minute I start to be confident in him as well too is like the minute he's going to probably let everybody down. It is what it is. With all due respect to Bo Nix, but because I'm sure they might have been a little bit like that in college as well too at Oregon, where I was like kind of like is he a check down guy at Oregon? It's like, no, you know what, Bo Nix is good, and then he just went out and was just not great in that playoff game or whatever bowl game or whatever that they were playing in, or maybe it was the conference championship game. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember one of those late season games. He really had some turnovers and I think a tough performance that obviously cost Oregon a win there in an important spot. But again, for fourth quarters has been super reliable this year for this team. So I don't know if we can actually go in and pause. Ayo, look at his fourth quarter. I'm nervous that his fourth quarter numbers, again, just with the chaos of his year, the fourth quarter numbers could just be still worse to the same over the course of the game. But hey, it's worth taking a look at just to see if there is something there that, pause, would stand out, because that has been definitely the drama-filled quarter for the team. If not bearing out in the stats the same type of way, if they have it divided up here by quarter, I guess. I'm assuming they do. First down yards. Maybe we've done this before. Pause. Oh, hey, here we go. Second quarter might actually be his best quarter. 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks in the second quarter on 63% completion percentage. But fourth quarters, his lowest completion percentage in the fourth quarters. 55 first downs, though. 8 touchdowns to 4 picks. So, he's the 3-1 in the second quarter versus a 2-1 in the fourth quarter for touchdown to interception ratio. 118 yards, though, rushing. We're just looking at we're looking for something now at this point. It is what it is. But regardless, we know that those scenarios have definitely gone their way time and time again this year, with them ending up getting the 1 seed in the AFC. And them having home court is obviously, everything's going to matter now that they're down their starting quarterback. So them having the home field advantage is obviously going to be super important. But when leading 14 minutes to go, 10 for 14, 71% completion percentage, and, hasn't turned the ball over in those scenarios. Tied less than 4 minutes to go, 68% completion percentage, 77 yards, has a touchdown there, no turnovers. So, you look at all of the less than 2, less than 4 minutes in the regular season. If I'm reading this correctly, it says he had four interceptions in the fourth quarter, but again, narrowing it down to more late games, even later game specifics. And maybe he had one at like the 5:05 mark in one of the games and is just getting cut off from the stats here. But it's saying, under the 4-minute mark for a lot of these games, he did not have a turnover there. So, that alone, again, if we're just, pointing to some of the most basic stuff, that alone is obviously great for helping teams being able to win, and, their ability to run the ball in and stuff, getting touchdowns there, their ability to create some stuff defensively. It's not like he has to throw touchdowns all the time as well too, and set them up for field goals is important as well. But yeah, it's just a bummer that by the time it was okay, I'm bought in. Bo Nix, this might actually be able to work. With the way the competition is shaking out, they can get wins against these teams. Again, obviously great competition. Drake May, Stafford, Caleb Williams, Darnold, whoever it's going to be in the NFC. If they were able to get a win in the AFC Championship game, or even if it was Stroud and the Texans defense, again, the way that their Texas defense has caused chaos this year, you'd really be nervous about, of course, some degree, Bo Nix's ability to be able to navigate that situation. But like I'm saying, I was beginning to, by the time we get to the AFC Championship game, but it's there's the light at the end of the tunnel. There's this game and that game, and this might actually be able to happen. Bo Nix might be able to actually captain this team, but unfortunately the fluke happens, and Caleb Williams almost with a crazy pass down the field, winging it while he was rolling out to his right, but just a little too far to the sideline for the receiver who was running back to the sideline to try to get that there. But not on the bright side for Denver, but if we were just looking at the playoffs as a whole, this is the one team in this scenario of these teams that are left that could be most likely to sustain this type of injury. Again, if we're going for the Bills game, obviously the Bills themselves, if Josh Allen goes down, and I don't know if it's just true, is Jared Stidham that much better than Mitchell Trubisky? Maybe, I don't know. But also, if Josh Allen goes down, you're probably a little screwed in that game. I guess the Rams, now that I'm saying it, maybe the Rams because of the way that we view McVay and that offense, and I guess Garoppolo. They have Garoppolo. Ooh, I might take it. I take it back, chat. I take it back. Maybe Garoppolo. The Rams are best to withstand a quarterback injury, but it would still feel like the competitiveness of that team is obviously in a way different spot. And with respect to Caleb Williams and him taking steps forward in his career, I guess Tyson Bagent would be pretty good. Are the Broncos? Is it actually the other way? Are we realizing the MVP value of Bo Nix now? Are the Broncos actually the worst equipped to handle this type of injury? And maybe the Broncos did the worst job of having a backup. Stidham, respect to Stidham. And Stidham is a guy that, again, in the backup community, well respected in the backup quarterback community, I think. But there was a moment where people were talking about Tyson Bagent getting the starting job over Caleb Williams. So, I mean, again, there's a level of competency there that he does have to be able to captain an offense if he has to go in the game. Ultimately, we're seeing now the high-level play that we can get from Caleb Williams, and it's still not even, there's still obviously levels of plays that he can get to as a great player, but just the dynamic plays that he can make over, what maybe Bagent is capable of. We're seeing those come to fruition now in terms of them making a playoff run. But, again, if he gets hurt, you're still like, okay, Bagent's a guy. And again, that's not bad to say that the team would rally around Tyson Bagent if Caleb Williams got hurt. But it's actually a good thing that the team can still win games. Hey, we're in the playoffs here. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. Whatever happens. You got to be able to compete. So it's a good thing that those teams are set up. And like I'm saying, Garoppolo, if Garoppolo gets hurt, you're kind of like, hey, I think not that we're okay. But it's like, okay, we can still kind of do this. Maybe there's 3 or 4 passes where we still have hope. And then I don't know if Garoppolo throws a pick or something, and now we're like, oh, wait a second, Stafford, get the hopefully whatever the medical team's doing there, is gonna work. And then the Bills, like we were saying, would be the other one. I mean, the Texans might have even thought of going to Davis Mills at that game just because they needed the mix up, just because Stroud was again, just not playing in rhythm at all in that whole game. Are we going to sit here and say, like we're saying, is Davis Mills at the end of the day a better quarterback than CJ Stroud? But CJ Stroud was just way out of rhythm. So maybe you just have to go to Davis Mills. And if CJ Stroud had tweaked an ankle or they have to go to the blue tent for something, Davis Mills for a couple plays, you're like, hey, we saw him in some games this year. That's not bad. So, and then who are we forgetting? The Seahawks? Who is the Seahawks backup? That's probably not good. If we have to, is it Milton? That's why we're not Milton. Hey, yo, whoa, cancel us now, chat. Hey, yo, Milroe, Jalen Milroe, Joe Milton, Cowboys backup. I think Milroe is the Seahawks backup. He is a Seahawks backup. I guess is he the Seahawks backup that would sub in for Darnold is the main question. Here, let me just look up the PFF actually off screen since it'll be a little bit quicker to pull up the roster that way. As I say that and just jinx the internet speed of the phones. It is what it is. But we're cooking here. We've got Tirico getting excited. The Bears defense gets to Stafford on first down. Shout out. We got a sack. We've got the Guardian cap getting in there for the tackle. You love to see it. But here, Seattle roster backup. We'll see what the other quarterbacks say. Oh, Drew Lock. See, that's okay. That is okay. So I think the point is Bo Nix is the most valuable quarterback left. Assuming the Bills are already eliminated. I know that's a technicality with the Rams and the Bears being still technically in the divisional round of things. And I guess we were giving the Texans credit. So second MVP. And I guess if Bo Nix is second MVP to Josh Allen, that's not a bad thing as well too. Matt Stafford is literally the MVP this year. And we're saying Bo Nix is the MVP. Can the writers revote? Do we have a second to revote? Give Bo Nix the MVP. The Broncos are screwed. Hey, yo, could the Rams still win the Super Bowl with Garoppolo? It's a little much. Again, Garoppolo, even at the peak of his powers, was a little bit short there with the Niners. But maybe the Rams team is a little better. I don't know. McVay better set up in fourth quarter moments versus Shanahan and some of the Super Bowl stuff. I don't know track records there, how they would align. But a little quick Google search might show us some stuff. I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe they would be more okay, like we're saying, than Denver. So we got to give Stidham credit. Sean Payton and his ability to cook up stuff for a quarterback is still definitely there, and like we're saying, he was still able to get Bo Nix to not only just play well, but to continue to be better as a quarterback as well too over the course of the year. So they're not totally screwed. And to be honest, it is honestly, and they've already said, I think at this point, that Stidham is the guy that's expected to start. I don't even know what the rules are for them signing guys. I think they could sign any free agents that they want, I would assume. I don't know if that's a little too extreme for the rules, but I pulled up one article that was like, what do the Broncos do? And the first name they suggested was Ryan Tannehill. So I was like, okay, the options they definitely have some options. If they want they can get some free agents. If somebody is suggesting that they can just get Ryan Tannehill, respectfully off the streets, then they can sign anybody that's just not playing quarterback at this point. But if the first name that we're thinking of is Ryan Tannehill, again, with all due respect to Ryan Tannehill, just logistically, it makes more sense to, I think, just stick with the guy that's been in the system for the entire season. And if you thought Tannehill would have been a better backup than Stidham, you probably should have just had Tannehill on your roster for the year. It is what it is. So I know we had we talked a little bit about this when Daniel Jones went down, because make no mistake, we were not necessarily totally bought in on the idea of Phillip Rivers being the starting quarterback for the Colts for a couple of games. It did work out a little bit more favorably than we thought. But there were some other names that we were maybe considering. I don't know if you bring in Cam Newton. Imagine Cam Newton playing for the Broncos, of course, the team that he lost the Super Bowl to 10 years ago. But now he has a chance to win the Super Bowl in 2 playoff games with the Broncos. Cam is the only other guy that I would want to see be the quarterback. I guess Kaepernick. If Kaepernick could be the quarterback, that would obviously be great, just to see him get a shot in the NFL again. But Cam would also be great as well too. And I don't know if it's disrespectful to say that. I guess we need to hold a pro day, a Cam Newton versus Kaepernick pro day. I mean, Cam, there's a YouTube video right there. Hey, yo, you talk about millions of views. Get speed. Yeah, if you have speed, Cam Newton and Kaepernick in a video on Cam Newton's channel, that's his most popular video right there. I mean, he doesn't have to give us credit for the idea, but if he listens to this and hears about it and does it, then hey, yeah, we'll just say shout out to Cam Newton. That's all. But either way, he would be one of the guys, depending on who looks better at that pro day. I don't know. But again, there's not, what are you going to do? It's not like there ever is a guy that's just like, okay, who's the guy waiting on the sideline to just be the next Super Bowl winning quarterback that nobody is signed. That doesn't exist. But the random option that does seem like, okay, maybe this is interesting. And maybe because we saw Phillip Rivers check in for a game this year, maybe Phillip Rivers is the only other name as well too, where I don't even know what the rules are. Can you get Phillip Rivers? Is he just on the Colts roster at this point, or is he, do we have his rights? Hey, yo, or is he technically a free agent? I'm not certain. But again, we saw him on short notice just show up for a week and almost win a game against Seattle as well too, who is looking like the best team in the league after that last game against San Francisco. So maybe just the chaos of that could be something that the Patriots unprepared for. Maybe that throws them off, and if you're able to prepare for Stidham and knowing a little bit what he could do in that Denver system, does that give you not a disadvantage, but AO is just, again, the chaos of Rivers just better in that scenario. But I think it's just you stick with the guy that's been on the roster. If that's your backup all year, you gotta you've made your bed in that situation, so that's what you're going with. But just the idea of a guy on a short week as well too, going in and having to just be the starting quarterback in the AFC Championship game just because, also doesn't seem like a and again, it's not just because, obviously it's because your quarterback hurt, but just because you don't want your backup to be the starter, that to me would seem like you misplayed your backup quarterback spot a little bit throughout the course of the year. And I think that's probably more the sports writer article angle of it, more so than Denver. I think Denver probably, you know, they're obviously bummed out that Bo Nix got hurt, but I think they were, had to go to a backup. They're obviously prepared for Stidham to be their guy. That's the guy that they had in there all year. But so it's not to say that, are they like, oh, wait a second, do we actually need to go get Ryan Tannehill? I think they're like, no, if Bo Nix is hurt, Stidham's our guy. That's the way the team is set up. But it does once again obviously reinforce the importance of backup quarterbacks. And I did see an edit on Instagram set to Billie Jean about it was like a Nick Foles faded into Jarrett Stidham edit. Hey yo, is that a little sketchy there? I'm not sure. But it was a little like, hey, here's Nick Foles throwing a pass, and then all of a sudden cut to Jarrett Stidham. And now is he checking in the game for the Broncos, and all of a sudden he's going to be the backup quarterback? It is possible, but, and Caleb Williams almost throwing an interception ball down the sideline there. Hey, yo. But, even Nick Foles had a little bit more of a starting successful stretch than Carson Wentz. Not to say that Nick Foles is like the best backup in the history of the NFL, but again, Nick Foles was like a legitimate starter before he got hurt. It would be a little bit like, again, like Rivers was like actually like a Hall of Famer before he was a 45-year-old backup. So Foles was not 45 when he subbed in. Is Foles even 45 now? Can we do math? 1989. I think is he getting close? Hot take. I'm not sure. And I guess he did have an indie run in there as well. So that would have been 18. Yeah, he wasn't even 30, chat. Hey, yo. He was, 28, 29. What was the Super Bowl winning there? Was that 17 playoffs? Yeah, the 17 playoffs. He was 28. And it had Stidham's not like 35. That'd be more compared to Rivers. But he, had been 8-2 in 2013 and had been in the Pro Bowl. He had been in the Pro Bowl as well, too. I forgot about that. 119 quarterback rating in 10 games, 13 starts that year. And then in St. Louis in 11 games, 69 rating that year. That's not the year we want to look at. Hey, yo. Maybe that's why he was back in Philly as a backup. It is what it is. But regardless, again, was he a consistent starter around the league? That's not the point. The point was he was a guy that was able to, hit high levels of starter play. Really, really, really starter. And with the team that was, really great around him, was able to catch fire for a couple of playoff games. If Stidham was like Derek Carr, maybe, that's not a bad comp, because Derek Carr was in some Pro Bowls and, an MVP level guy, and maybe his career take a little bit. It's like, okay, he's not going to turn the Saints franchise around, but if he's your backup quarterback, like that's pretty fun. I guess, you know what? This might actually lean back in for the Bo Nix case over Josh Allen. Trubisky did make a Pro Bowl. Mitchell Trubisky was in a Pro Bowl. I don't know if he had 119.2 quarterback rating, which is like legitimately like the best of all time. Like the 10 games that Nick Foles had there were like 10 of the best games ever, and then won a Super Bowl. Quarterback that can play like the best quarterback of all time for 10 games. Like that's a decent amount of a season. Like we could go back and check how many guys have just randomly had a season of over 100 or over a 10 game stretch of like over 112 quarterback rating. Maybe like 100 or something, you can get there for sure. Here we go. Trubisky, I guess 9 games played in, but that's not 9 games played. That's a little different. Trubisky is trying to get us on a technicality there. He does have a 117.3 quarterback rating in 9 games last year, but he was 19 for 26 for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, Foles was putting up legitimate numbers. Trubisky was just checking in over the course of 9 different games. But again, his best season in Chicago, they made the playoffs. His second year, he was, what's his quarterback rating? 95.4. Not bad. 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 12 picks. So again, Nick Foles, definitely better at the peak of his powers than Mitchell Trubisky. I don't know if anybody is sitting here debating that. That's undebatable, chat. That's just an undeniable fact of the NFL in 2025, is that Nick Foles is just a better quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky. With all due respect to Mitchell Trubisky, it is what it is. But is he a better quarterback than Jarrett Stidham? He probably is a better quarterback than Jarrett Stidham. So, again, you got to make sure that if you think you can win the Super Bowl, you've got to be prepared for everything. I know Stidham's, if you're in a regular season game and he's got to give you a couple drives, it's like, okay, Stidham can put together a couple drives. He's a good guy to have in the film room. We love having him around. But if he actually has to sub in and win you a Super Bowl? Can he do that? Osweiler and Peyton, I don't know if that was the case back then. They had to go back to Peyton. And then, the Osweiler starter stuff obviously, was a little bit different than it was in Denver when he went to Houston. But the career here for our guy Stidham, has never started more than 2 games in a season. He has, in those 2 games in Vegas, put up some fun numbers, and that was under McDaniels, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. So there was some offensive gearedness there to the team, and he was running the offense to a level of statistical success, but hasn't thrown a pass since the end of 2023. 2 full seasons of not being able to throw a pass. Shout out to Bo Nix for staying healthy for 2 full years. There is, again, good for him. Unfortunately, like Denzel told Will Smith, the devil comes for you in your highest moment. So he got Bo Nix right by the ankle. Hey, I don't know. But and Stafford sails this one out of bounds, 4th and 10. The pressure has been there. I know the coverage has been there for the Bears as well too. There has not been a lot of just open windows, miscommunications, broken coverages for him to attack. There's not even really a corner that you could, I guess, was it Love? It was the Packers in that last game. I don't know. I was blanking on who they played in the last game. The Packers were attacking Gordon quite a bit in that game, and I think finding quite a bit of success as well too. So again, whether route running capabilities, ability to get a good grip on the football, it's snowing. I get all that stuff, but maybe there needs to be a little bit more simplicity in attacking the matchups and finding the areas that are vulnerable in the defense, because the Patriots were doing that in that Texans game as well too. As good as Lassiter has been this year, it did not seem like they were afraid to go at him, and his physicality did get him in trouble a few times with some penalties, and he did fall down on that 4th and 3 that we were talking about, diving for the pass defense, and unfortunately that was the play that led to them scoring that first touchdown. But I don't know if we need to. We'll talk about that game a little bit more as well too, because again, the Texas defense was pretty incredible in that game, keeping them around. And the Patriots, Drake May, you got to give him credit for leading that not go ahead because they were already winning, but that clenching drive, that game clenching drive at the end there to put it up 2 scores was that legitimate playoff, veteran type of stuff that we were talking about for those guys executing at the end of the games when you really, really need them to step up. And, again, it really, really sucks that it is that old school Patriots formula of the defense is crazy. The defense is going to create a lot of turnovers. The defense can get stops. And if Drake May can be hanging around into 4th quarter, again, I'm not sitting here saying I fear Drake May like Tom Brady, or, do I even fear Drake May like Josh Allen, or these guys that we've seen, even have a little bit more time spent with in the playoffs. Again, that's Drake May's 2nd playoff game. But just from a knowledgeable, rational, this guy's numbers have been really good, projecting forward on obviously what he could be. It is seemingly possible that, if you get him in these close games, he's going to be able to deliver, and he's going to be able to have these clutch drives that you need him to have. But, again, the Texas defense was able to rattle them and keep them close and not necessarily able to play a perfect game. So that Denver can execute in that same type of way. And, if Bo Nix was there, if their offense was capable, they could be in this game, very much, because they have been consistently getting to 30 points and putting up these, high scores, even if they have been chaotic games. So that they can go offensively a little bit with the Patriots. But again, if their defense can get some of these chaotic stops. And for a while in this game, the Texans offense kind of outscored the Patriots defense. Again, the Texans defense also set up some of that stuff that they were getting as well too. But, the offenses were pretty even throughout the game. And then he was able to get that last drive to help put it away. So it is, I guess we can't say that Drake May is Matt Stafford still in the playoffs at this point. But it'll be interesting to see, again, how we continue to narrow this down for who is the best quarterback left, and then who emerges as well too from that group. But speaking of the best left, we probably should mention the Seahawks and the 49ers, because this was, speaking of the boring playoff games, the game that broke our streak of entertaining playoff games, because the Seahawks went out and dominated, but at least the first play was exciting. So, if it was going to be a dominant game, it was dominant right from the start. The first play, the energy there was insane. Shaheed was, immediately turned the game, of course, with his kickoff return. And we were talking about getting nostalgia for that 07 game. Of course, speaking of the Bears, it was thinking about Devin Hester running back that opening kick in the 07 Super Bowl. And again, ultimately the Bears were not able to win that game. I guess unfortunately for Bears fans, not unfortunately for Colts fans. But Devin Hester, of course, that was the early seasons there of him being at the peak of his powers and his greatness being confirmed with just how dangerous he was as a kick returner and his ability to, elevate and deliver as well too. Like, do you think of a kick returner as like he's going to deliver in this moment? But it's like, hey, they kick to him. How many opportunities are you going to get to be kicked to, as a kick returner in any given game? So the one time that you're going to kick to a guy that that maybe you shouldn't even be giving him an opportunity as well too, he takes that opportunity right away and makes you pay for it. That's Hall of Fame level stuff, and there is in the Hall of Fame. But that did get me thinking, and I hate to go on a rant here as we enter the fourth quarter of this Bears-Rams game, but I think we'll be okay. It is what it is. I think we do need to re-look at some of the Hall of Fame stuff for the NFL. I'm sure all the Hall of Fame stuff in all the different sports can be, re-looked at and rediscussed in terms of, hey, we're not trying to make sure that guys don't qualify for the Hall of Fame. I'm more inclined to get more guys into the Hall of Fame. And I think that's what I'm trying to actually do that in terms of redoing the Hall of Fame, because there does need to be a way to reward special teamers more consistently for being in the Hall of Fame. And not to say that, Shaheed a Hall of Famer now because he ran back an opening kickoff in a divisional team. There was a point in that game where they subbed in Velus Jones at running back. And with all due respect to Velus Jones, the game was still kind of close at this point. The spiral had just started for San Francisco. We didn't realize that they were in the midst of what was going to be, a complete, a collapse. Again, they were pretty banged up to end the year, but in terms of score-wise, a complete collapse on the year. But for when they subbed in Velus Jones, that was the point where I was like, okay, regardless of how close this game ends up being, the Seahawks probably are going to win this one. At some point, the talent does matter here. And I know we were looking at that Niners team and talking about Salah and okay, is there an underdog nature to that team? Can Salah get some of these names on defense where they've been injured to overperform? You get a guy like D. Winters stepping up, flying around, and he was pretty active in that game too, making plays. So, hey, you lose by 35. D. Winters looked pretty good. Him and Fred Warner will be terrifying in that defense when Fred Warner gets back for the next couple of years. But in 3rd and 1, big stop by the Rams defensive line on the run to force a 4th down, pushing him backwards as well too. So not going to probably get a 4th down attempt here as we enter the 4th quarter. But we can't count out Ben Johnson. He's moving the play sheets around right now. He just moved one from the front to the back. Pause. So I don't know if that's is that a, turn over the offensive play call to the special teams? I think he might be, no, we're going for it. He is keeping the offense out there. Again, it is going to be changing over quarters here, so he's going to have time for these guys to wander around and send the punt team out if he wants. But it was looking like Caleb Williams was looking over to the sideline for the play call. But needless to be said, when the 49ers subbed in Velus Jones, I was like, yeah, if this game is probably going to go to Seattle. It is what it is. They're probably just the more talented team. And again, it spiraled out of control in a major way, where after the kickoff touchdown by Shaheed, he didn't even really get another chance at a kickoff because the 49ers didn't even get to kick after that. They literally turned the ball over after every possession for the next 3 quarters, whether it was actually a literal interception or a fumble, or they just turned it over on downs as well too, with the score getting out of hand the way it was. And the first quarter in general, again, being down 17-0, and then, them being able to push it a little bit, pause more going into halftime. And then by the time, you're 24-6, again, the way that the rosters are looking, you're like, yeah, it's probably starting to get out of reach for San Francisco. At this point, it is what it is, really close the deal obviously, in the third quarter as well, too, putting up 10 more for Seattle. But you had those 2 fumbles early as well, too, from Juszczyk and the backup tight end, where, Juszczyk, of course, great weapon for that team, great player just in his role and what he can contribute to that offense. And he can get, he can get touches in that offense as well, too, if you need him to. But is he going to be one of the first main guys that you're going to be having out there in a very physical playoff game with the energy is crazy? Is he going to be one of the first guys you're running plays for? Probably not traditionally. And we should mention as well, too, we also have NBA on in the background. We haven't mentioned it once, but Pelicans versus Rockets. Steven Adams went down, and he's limping off the court a little nervous because, it looked a little non-contact, looked a little awkward on the fall. So, hopefully it's nothing season-ending there in terms of a tear or, anything bad. Again, I didn't see a great, I wasn't paying crazy attention to the replay, so I didn't see if it was like a tweak or something like that with the ankle, if he just rolled an ankle, if there was something obvious there. But it did seem like when he planted or when he went up for the jump, it was something that bothered him, and then he was crumpling to the floor after that. And when Steven Adams is, on the floor as well too, that's actually an injury that's taken place. It's probably, just like somebody like took his ACL in the middle of, what are we saying here for stuff? It's just like all the muscles in his leg have been torn, and he's like now walking off with a limp. Like that's what it has to take for Steven Adams to, be injured on a given play. So, again, hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's okay. A rare guy you have to take to the locker room. It is what it is. But yeah, so even if it was starting to look a little weak there for the Niners, that was a game where the score is again bad. It does make Seattle obviously look like a crazy team, and they are the 1 seed in general. So are they the best team in the NFC? Confirmed? Sure. But if you have Kittle per se getting those catches instead of your other tight end, are you going to get a fumble that early on? The Seahawks defense is active and flying around, and they have the ability to create those things, again, regardless of who is on offense for the other team. They've been doing it all season. But if you have your actual star level players and they're able to execute in those moments, obviously maybe the game turns out a little bit differently. And it was interesting that it was in those specific plays where it was not necessarily them, being, and they were overwhelmed at the line. They were just overwhelmed throughout the course of the game. It was what it is. What it is. It was what it was. It will be what it will be next year if they run it back. I don't know, but I guess if everybody's hurt as well too. But it was the moments where it was like, again, the crazy turnovers, the lack of execution, those fourth downs where they weren't able to pick up enough yardage, and if it was like we're saying, if they had more, if they had their guys, it seemed more like a case where they were obviously able to compete than them just being straight up outmatched, just in general by Seattle, if that makes sense. But for the special teamers part of it as well too, like we were saying, this game does, show the importance of that special team, because there was even a punt early where they got them really deep in pause, in their own field position and forced a long drive and kind of helped chew up clock and, kept swinging the course of the game there. But for Shaheed, and again, is his resume on the same level of a guy like Hester's? Obviously, Hester's got one of the best kick return resumes that we've ever seen. But it did get me thinking about some of the other guys that have, obviously been great kick returners as well too. Because I was thinking, like, is Devin Hester just automatically the leader in all the yardage stuff that goes with that and the touchdown stuff as well? Is it like a LeBron situation where it's like, okay, obviously, and you could debate LeBron and MJ as well, but where it's like, okay, the best guy is also the record holder for everything. But there was some other guys, as you would expect, that were up there with the stats as well. And I was trying to look at like the all pros and some of that stuff as well too, to compare. And Hester does, as you would expect, stand out in that way as well too. But I mean, again, Devin Hester's a great kick returner. So Devin Hester, if there has to be one kick returner in the Hall of Famer, like it has to be Devin Hester. Of course, he is the guy. I mean, that's again why he is there, because he's the defining guy of that spot. But you see games like this, and it just, they can swing whole games. They can swing whole series. They can swing series. They can swing whole playoffs. Devin Hester, like we're saying, almost swung that whole 2007 Super Bowl where the Colts had to change their entire kicking strategy in that game, given the Bears' great field position. If they had been able to execute on that a little bit more, they probably should have honestly killed the Colts in that Super Bowl. It is what it is. But you see him with the 4 Pro Bowls and the 3 All-Pros. That was the part I didn't get the chance to look up, was how many guys have that many All-Pros. Because, for the NBA, we like to look at that precedent. I don't want to say that it's guaranteed that the lowest guy, the lowest All-NBA total in the NBA Hall of Fame is 5. Because I know that's probably not true. There's somebody with 4, there's somebody with 3, there's probably some contributors and stuff. You can get selected maybe for a couple different reasons. But the precedent does seem to be that in general, if basketball's a little bit more, of a flat rate in terms of the resumes and the achievements and all different stuff. And talking about basketball, we're going to look for basketball stats over here. But for the kick returners, if Devin Hester at 3 All-Pros is the precedent, I don't think it's disrespectful to Devin Hester's career to say that if there are other kick returners that have matched that type of resume, then they should be considered for that type of achievement. And, again, their ability to impact a playoff team the way that, or be able to impact a team in the playoffs and help scoring just directly, how crazy Hester was as a player. Like, again, it's undeniable that he is, or, is it undeniable that he's arguably, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but, he is probably got, like we're saying, the best case for any kick returner to be the best one, just in terms of the eye test as well too, and how they were swinging those games. But there should be more guys that get in just on the merit of their ability to kick return, and for kickers and punters as well too, and of course even guys like Matthew Slater, who were just great special team guys that are stalwarts in those sides of the football for their entire careers and make tons of All-Pros. So I was thinking there needs to be a way where, I don't know what the exact rules are for the NFL Hall of Fame, but it needs to be something like maybe like 4 offensive and 4 defensive players, and then 1 special teams nomination where, again, a guy like Hester, I guess technically maybe wide receiver, Matthew Slater, I guess technically wide receiver, however you want to list that out. And I guess, do they even have kick returner listed on the positions as well too? Pause. Do we have to go with the statistical filter of kick return yards in here? Like 1,000 career kick return yards as well? See who is in here. And not to leave out, our beloved punt returners as well. But if you had 1 special teamer, it could be a kicker, 1 returner 1 year, and then, NFL guy the next year. Oh, wait a second. We've got nobody's ever made a first team All-Pro as a kick returner. I guess it's going to make us, be specific, or vague with the way we phrase this. Okay, wait a second. It took the All-Pro criteria out of there, so let's just search it now and see what we get. I guess we can sort by All-Pros maybe. Okay, nobody's had 1,000 career kick playoffs, regular season. Are we doing this right? Oh, wait, here we go. It was that 1 right there that we needed to get rid of. We still got to keep an eye on the game. The Rams are in the red zone. Trying to break the tie here. It was, I guess, now realizing, of course, nobody able to score and able to get 5 on first down. Okay, it shouldn't be difficult. Hester had 1,000 kick return yards like 4 different seasons, so he definitely had it for his career. Oh, kick returns. Well, that would be why. It's not kick return yards. We need kick return yards. I guess didn't actually field 1,000 kick returns in that kick returner get. Kick return yards. Okay, 1,000. Maybe we bring our All-Pro filter back in as well. Or maybe we can sort by All-Pros. Yeah, here we go. Sort by Pro Bowls. Sort by Pro Bowls. And see what we get. And then this way, if there's some running backs maybe that were kick returning. I don't know. Because speaking of the 49ers, they did have Brian Robinson returning kicks this year. So, it could be anybody. Rod Woodson, defensive back, of course, as well. So he made 11 Pro Bowls as a defensive back. Not, wait, where's Hester at? In here. So yeah, wait, here's Hester at 4. So did anybody else make it based on just being a Pro Bowl or just being a kick returner? Jarvis Landry? I don't know. I guess all these guys do have 1,000+ kick return yards. Do we just go? I guess I don't even know what we're looking for stats at this point. But here, let's just go back to the kick return leaderboards and see what we've got. Because Cribbs was another one who was, in the league at the same time as Hester. Oh, Puka Nacua. Wait, 4th and 1. What happened? Puka Nacua, is able to get it. Okay, 1st and goal for the Rams. Shut up. He got 3 and 1 All-Pro. So, a little bit short there. So maybe Hester is the only one at this point that, again, just based on a across the board sort of metric gets in. But I think it could be a little bit more susceptible for, or a little bit more welcoming for special teamers to get in as well too. Plus, like Dante Hall, how is Dante Hall not in the Hall of Fame? Hey, there just needs to be is this guy really great on the YouTube highlights? And then he's deserving. But the Rams score. Okay, maybe special teams Hall of Fame fix another day. Who knows? We've got a Caleb Williams clutch drive. We've got a clutch 4th quarter in general that we have to focus on here. Extra point to make it the official 1-score game is up and good. So Stafford strikes first in the 4th quarter. Caleb Williams, I mean, he needs to respond, chat. This has been his game all year. Has been the response, has been the trailing, the underdog, the positive comebacks, all the different stuff. So we'll take a quick break. In the last 8 minutes of the 4th quarter, don't go anywhere. This is the clutch time. This is where stars are made, chat. This is where stars are made. Caleb Williams, Matt Stafford, already a made star. I guess to be a made man, do you have to take down a made man? I don't know if that's the rules in the NFL. Maybe, well, I guess that's not the rules of Goodfellas. I think it might be the rules in the NFL. Maybe we have to go back and check the rules of Goodfellas. I don't know. We'll do that on break real quick. We'll be right back. Testing. Well, there we are. We are back. This is it. This is the last clutch minutes. This is where we find out the Ben Johnson, the Caleb Williams moves, if they were worth it. I mean, obviously they're worth it. The turnaround has been, in some ways, very successful. But that last level, of course, are they him? are the moves there? Okay, McVay and Stafford, they've already been there. Goff and Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are trying to, of course, get there for their first time. And I was thinking too, his first year, potentially if he goes up against Vrabel, his first year, I think McDonald is second year, and then Peyton. Peyton's in his third or fourth because, he had a couple years there with Russell Wilson. But new life with Bo Nix. So his second year with Bo Nix, I guess, technicality. So, but two first, I guess again, not first year head coaches. Ben Johnson actually first year head coach. Literally his first season as a head coach in the NFL. Again, I guess, we were getting ahead of ourselves there with Vrabel. Vrabel, have we seen two first season head coaching teams? Would be rare, I think, enough in itself. Maybe the first time ever. Can I think quickly back on the 50-plus Super Bowls and their head coaches? I mean, obviously, Belichick knocks out a couple. Andy Reid, okay, scan through the list. I don't know. But that would be pretty impressive. But, again, for Ben Johnson to literally make it his first season as a head coach, we've seen it in the NBA and maybe a little bit more successfully in the NBA, where it's not a move that you would make where you think you're going to win the title that first season every time, but it is it is that level up move that has worked a little bit more successfully over there. Caleb Williams scrambling up the sideline for a pretty big escape play at this point. We might have to turn Collinsworth up a little bit and see what excitement level he gets to, because like we're saying, Stafford can hit those Mahomes levels, but I think he gets excited about Caleb Williams. Here's a guy that loves Caleb Williams. Here's a guy that just modeled himself after Pat Mahomes. I love guys like Caleb Williams and Dylan Raiola. They really just are what the quarterback spot is about in 2025. Or in 2026. I don't even know what year we're in, Mike. It is what it is. But DeAndre Swift for a couple of yards up the middle. We'll see if the run game is able to help them out here at all or not. And if we get a little, offensive burst here at the end as well, because both these teams do have that capability to, I think, flip the switch a little bit and maybe provide some exciting football in the last couple of minutes. Of course, we'll see if we hit some big plays. The Bears right now just inside the 35. So, keeping it on the ground here as well, too. Third and short. Kind of a conservative play call for Ben Johnson. I don't know if you take a shot there and, get super creative or super risky, but you set yourself up for a good third down and an easier fourth down as well, too, if you give yourself the two plays to have the opportunity to have something happen there. But again, very conservative run, very short gain, keeps the clock moving as well too. But again, I don't know, at this point in the game, it might be just on the outside of worrying about that, because if you have to, I guess go toe to toe, I don't know, you just think about worrying about that on the next drive if you have to. Just tie the game is basically the point. Work at the pace that you need to. So again, if it's methodical, then it is what it is. But I wouldn't necessarily, take extra amounts of time to work the clock down. You're going to need that time as well, too. If you can't stop the Rams, obviously. But, again, I think maybe think one possession ahead, don't think two possessions ahead. So, maybe that's not right. I don't know. What is advanced? How many possessions ahead can you think in the advanced analytics? What did the advanced analytics say about thinking two possessions? Am I allowed to think 4 possessions ahead? I guess what is Belichick? How many possessions ahead does he think? Should we ask him that? Should we go to a press conference? Hey, Belichick, how many possessions ahead are you thinking? That would either be like the best questions he's ever had, or he'd be like, what do you mean by that? How many possessions? He's like, I'm trying to call the next play. Like, okay, is that why Belichick has lost his step? We say, okay, Belichick, back when you were good, how many steps ahead were you thinking? How many steps ahead were you thinking? How many possessions ahead were you playing stuff? When you were making a move, how many possessions down the line were you thinking about this? How big was the ripple? Hey, yo, what was the ripple effect that you were thinking of a play call or a decision in a given moment? Caleb Williams fired it out of the back of the end zone from the 35 to Zacchaeus, double teamed. So you'll take an overthrow there. An aggressive overthrow is better. I don't know, Olamide Zacchaeus in double coverage down the field. Shout out we'll give our man a shot. But I don't know if that's the number one play call you want there. So you do end up in 3rd and long. See, second and long there, pause, might have been the time to just try to run the ball and pick up 4 and get yourself in 3rd and medium. I don't know why you're taking the shot at the end zone on 2nd and 10. Maybe it is keeping the defense off target. And Caleb Williams with the throw to Adunze on 3rd down, it doesn't even matter. They keep the sticks moving. So I don't know. We're saying Ben Johnson overrated after 2 play calls. I don't know if that's the case. But a little confusing sequence. Maybe he got his papers out of orders there. We got, what do we got? Roughing the passer? Oh, no. Hey, yo. Is that Verse? Our guy Verse getting the tackle on Caleb Williams. Chat, the 2026 tackle. Oh, man, we were watching Bob Sanders highlights earlier either, and I don't know if, well, unfortunately, Bob Sanders couldn't hold up in any era. But I don't know from a penalty standpoint. Fines. Bob Sanders would have had too many fines in 2026. It is what it is. Verse, oh, chat. It's definitely going to be because he took too many steps to get to the quarterback after the quarterback threw the pass. But it was a clean tackle. I mean, he basically just pushed Caleb Williams to the ground. And I'm going to say he was leading with his head. He ended up not, making contact and ended up not really. But it was more that he was looking down when he was making the pass. So he wasn't really locked in on, I think, where Caleb Williams was at in terms of the progression of that pass. I think he was just completing his rush and, again, focusing on making a clean tackle as well, too. But, we're pro-verse on this pod, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It is what it is. But now you're at a goal-to-go situation. So right away, now a chance to tie this game up. And you do see, of course, like I'm saying, the benefit, why you would want to think a couple possessions ahead, because now you're, maybe around the 4-minute mark when you kick this off and when LA gets it back. And if they're able to manage the clock correctly, with the game tied, they could either get the last possession or you're just not in a very great spot with a few seconds left, a minute left when you get your last possession. Maybe you only need a field goal to tie there as well, too. Now you get to maybe overthinking it at this point. What's the overthinking line? I'm not sure. But again, if your defense is going to, at the end of the day, when you win championships, defense wins championships, you got to get a stop. You got your quarterback, like we were saying at the beginning, you got to have those 4th quarter drives. But, the Chiefs also, to bring it back to Mahomes, time and time again, were able to get stops when they needed to give their offense an opportunity, but to also not allow the other team to score when they needed to. Swift with the hurdle. Oh, the Rams' second defender is right there to stop him and bring him to the ground as he jumps, but he cleared the first defender. So if that second defender hadn't been there, that would have been a highlight of highlights. That would have been a hurdle for a tying touchdown in a divisional round of a playoff game. That would have been some nasty stuff. And it ends up being a fun tackle as well, too. Just a crazy play. We got a hurdle into a crazy tackle. Ben Johnson going for it on 4th and goal. I mean, I understand you have all 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning if you kick this off to LA and have to get a stop. Again, you have to get a stop and score and give up no points, but now they throw the pass. Chat, does Ben Johnson not watch football? What are we doing? A slant on the goal line in a playoff game? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. A mere 10 years ago, chat. A mere 10 years ago. We could probably find examples of it sooner than that as well, too. But we all know. I mean, flip the play and run the slant from right to left, and you've got the Super Bowl. You've got the Seahawks versus the Patriots. You've got throwing into the middle of the field, multiple defenders, turnover opportunity that could have happened there. Not the last play of the game. The Rams would have had and they do now, of course, have the ball on the, inside the whatever yard line. But that play call in that moment, time and time again, we've seen it not work. Chat, Ben Johnson, I don't want to say, because once again, who are we to judge? We don't have our degree in football play calling. That's not for sure. We didn't go to X's and O's university, but that was definitely a little bit of a out of sequence play calling type of situation on that last drive. Again, it works. You get down to the goal line up until that last play. But and ultimately if he gets the completion, then what do we say? Ben Johnson's a good coach, right? It's always results based. But the way that he was attacking those second downs was, a little bit confusing, and the play call there for the slant was obviously not the maybe number one play call that would have queued up in that moment, considering some of the games that we have seen in the past decade plus in the NFL in these big playoff moments. Even with as good, Russell Wilson's as good of a quarterback as you'll get, right? Peak of his powers, Seattle, those defenses were great as well too, carrying the team. I get it, that's what they would say. But, Russell Wilson was also balling out. Maybe never quite won the MVP, but pretty close, and, definitely deserving of being in the conversation with the way he would play for stretches there in regular seasons for Seattle. But even he can be susceptible to a great play by a defender or the clutter of the defense in the middle of the field there, and not necessarily the space to execute the route tree in the same type of way with the spacing around the defense. Shout out to Kevin Durant for passing Dirk Nowitzki, number 6 all time in scoring. Kevin Durant one spot away from being the number, I guess not 1 point, but one spot on the scoring placement list from being a top 5 scorer in NBA history. Is this a hot take right here? If Kevin Durant becomes the top 5 scorer in NBA history, can you say he's the best scorer? Can you say he's the best scorer in NBA history if he's the number 6 scorer, or does he have to be in the top 5? Do you have to say, well, he's 7 foot tall, he can get a basket from everywhere, he's a top 5 scorer all time? I mean, you say those 3 things right there. What do you have to argue against? What else are you saying? I guess you're gonna argue the totality of the offensive game, what you bring to the table defensively, to, of course, again, mentality and all the different stuff. Durant's a killer on the basketball court, just like any of them. But, again, are we saying Durant's a better offensive player than, is he a better offensive player than LeBron? Is he a better offensive player than Steph? We can go through the list. It's close. It's debatable. We'll rank it with the legacy the way most people do. But if we just talk about who could convert shots into points, who can convert field goals into points, who, when they take a jump shot, when they take a jumper, is most likely to score a bucket, it might be Kevin Durant. Maybe that's even a different way to phrase it as well too. If you take layups and getting to the basket off of the table, which is a weird way to play basketball, it's not like that would ever happen. But, MJ can only get to the basket. Is that what we're saying? That's not what we're saying. But I'm just saying from 7 feet and out, Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer of all time. I mean, you would also have to, in that case, consider, Shaq and Hakeem in the interior scoring argument as well, too. If we were, flipping around the 7 feet and in argument, something like that. Kareem has some mid-rangey stuff that he's working with, or Hakeem as well, too. But even Kareem with the skyhook, if we're going the outside the 7 foot range, is definitely in there as well. Pause. But yeah, Durant, I think, obviously with the totality of his skill set, and then, combining it with his stature as a player, I mean, I think you could obviously make the case that he is the greatest scorer in NBA history. But I guess you can't really make the case until you can say maybe he's a top 5 scorer of all time. I'm not totally certain what the rules are there. But, again, I mean, obviously, if we're just arguing offense, even Jokic, offensively, the totality of his offensively could be the best of all time. Who's to say? But in terms of, like we're saying, scoring, jump shot scoring in NBA history, Kevin Durant is the most lethal jump shot scorer in NBA history. And again, even that now is Steph a more lethal jump shot scorer? But, that might be more specific to, obviously it's specific to the styles that they play, but maybe Durant, with the way that he can convert some of those post-ups into jumpers, is an extra benefit as well too. But hey, Dirk Nowitzki with a little congratulatory video for Kevin Durant. I mean, Kevin Durant breaking the record on an interstate rival of Dirk. The, of course, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas rivalry of those teams is definitely competitive from the in that sense. So you'll love to see, I guess, then putting that aside and him calling him out there. But I guess Durant not really like a legendary Rocket at this point. Not saying that he can't be. It's just, he's played like 40 games for him in total at this point. Still working his way there. But, we got 2 minutes left in the divisional round game. The Bears on a 3rd and 10. I don't want to spoil here. It's still 2-minute warning. Oh, no, 4. They did get to 4th down. Okay, we're focused on Kevin Durant over here. We're losing sight. We got to lock back in. The Bears will get the ball with 2 minutes left and a chance to score. And I guess if you're settling for the field goal on that goal line opportunity, you do have to still get a touchdown if you go back down, if you get the ball back after the stop. So if you still need to score at least one touchdown, that is, mathematically, obviously, it makes sense. Are you in the lead now? Are you a field goal away? Is obviously the score looks different if you get 10 points compared to just 7. But regardless, you still have the opportunity to tie now, like you did back then. And I think that does make sense as well too. Ben Johnson thinking 2 possessions ahead does actually work out in this case. It is what it is if they are obviously able to go down and score. But that if you could go 2 field goals and tie, or of course 2 field goals and take the lead, then that's an entirely different scenario. But a second field goal does nothing for you here. You're still 1 point away and kicking off and needing another score, needing a stop, and then needing a 3rd field goal back to be able to pull that off. Pause. Makes sense. Ben Johnson. That's why he's an NFL coach. Hopefully the play calling here is a little bit more, it's 100% to our liking. That's what we want, right? I don't think that that's important as well too. If you're able to get to the 2-yard line on the last drive, but we'll see what kind of adjustments he makes into how they, I guess, like we're saying, attack the field here with 2 minutes left. How they play the clock as well too. So maybe overtime will be something that happens. I mean, will Ben Johnson just go for 2 if they go down and score? We can't necessarily write that off as well. Would he just straight up go for the win? I mean, that's a scenario where it feels like you would have to go for the tie and just extend the game into overtime. But I don't know. We know Ben Johnson, gutsy coaching tree with that Dan Campbell coaching tree and his own analytical aggressiveness as well too. So maybe he would just commit to that. But here's the punt. The punter is inside his own 5, so even a good punt here, you'd assume decent field position for the Bears. I guess Velus Jones is on the Niners now, so he's not returning this kick, unfortunately. And it's not a booming punt. It goes right to the 50 and then dies sideways right at the 50. So it did not want to go to the Bears side of the field. The punter. Is the punter in a sports? Is he in a point shaving scandal? I mean, if we've already accused Stroud of being in a point shaving scandal, we might as well just commit at this point. It's just every lawyer is going to email us. What's the difference? One NFL lawyer versus all the NFL lawyers. It really makes no difference at this point whether or not it's one or nothing. I mean, maybe there is a point where, obviously it's like, okay, we'll stop one lawyer right there. But, at this point, it's like, hey, there's really no difference if it's one NFL lawyer, if it's 17 NFL lawyers. It's like, hey, pause. It's all bad. Nonetheless, we're screwed either way. It is what it is. Caleb Williams, empty set, minute 50, and he's only got to go half the field to get a touchdown. So if he had the field goal, he's got it's not Burden. Is that Burden? He's got a receiver streaking across the middle that he just outside of his hands. The defender does get in there and break the play up, so you got to give him credit for that. Shout out to Durant. Speaking of Durant, we got a couple of Durants making plays. Kobe, Kevin, who's better, chat? DM us at Roman Sandpod. Let us know. Kobe Durant, Kevin Durant. I mean, if they played one-on-one, I don't know. The NFL guys over the NBA, is that just a straight-up thing that can happen? Is that a hot take? NFL guys over NBA guys in one-on-one. The physicality. Take them in the post, chat. They can't stop. It's the LeVar Ball strategy. You can't stop him on the post. Yes, maybe he's going to get his buckets, but he just can't stop. He can't stop him. It is what it is. So another strike down the field. Bears aggressive on these first couple of plays, but it opens up the run game. Swift across the first down for like a almost 15-yard gain there, and good ability obviously to navigate the whole pause, but not taking any conservative plays this time. The last drive was definitely much more methodical and much more laid out. And, you know, the clock is moving here. You only have one timeout as well, too. And you need to get in the end zone. But they're inside the 15 with 45 seconds left. So Ben Johnson telling him to go. Yeah, you know, you're not going to spike it on third down. So you're going to need to, you know, stay calm enough to be set into your next play. Oh, Caleb Williams overthrew a receiver. You know, again, if you're going to have an incompletion, maybe just spike it and save yourself the time. But at least you get a reset, and you know there is 2 plays here as well, too, because you have to have the touchdown. So Sean McVay feels like he gets himself into these end-of-game scenarios in some of these playoff games. You know, it seems like his defense is out there at sometimes making stops, or at least trying to. At least getting the opportunity to. I don't know. You know, again, has it always worked out in his favor? Obviously, he only has the 1 ring, but it seems like there's always drama at the end of a Sean McVay playoff game. Oh, Caleb Williams once again fires over the head of a defender. Oh, chat, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. I'm not going to say my stomach just dropped. I'm not going to say I don't trust him on a 4th and 4 here. But now you think about, you know, again, the play call last time of not being able to convert that. You think about the play in the regular season where they had the touchdown and Caleb Williams was running backwards and threw it just too low as the receiver was, you know, making his way back for the football. It's like, hey, you know, is the momentum shift there? And that's, you know, a difficult pass, and the receiver is at kind of, you know, the lower angle, and, you know, it's close. Like, could the receiver have dived a little bit more forward to get that? Like, you know, however you want to break it down. But this does, you know, reek of all those events. Where they've been successful in some of these late game moments, but has Caleb Williams been executing on the goal line, the thing that's hurt him? I'm not sure if that's the case. The Ben Johnson play calling on the goal line is the thing that's hurt him, but there has been something about them now in these 4th down situations, getting into these 4th down situations on the goal line, and, you know, or, you know, in the red zone area. And again, if they it's not like if they were kicking the field goal here, if they had the field goal, you know, that doesn't matter the last time. They would still be a 4-point game. They would still need to be going for this anyways. So Caleb Williams drops back. That Rams defensive line pressures him. He's at the 40. He flings it to the end zone. Commit. Chet. Caleb Williams. Oh, he gets it done. They need the extra point to tie. Don't get too excited yet, I guess. Hey, there's still drama there that could happen. But Caleb Williams delivers. McVay looks stunned. Oh, chat. Hey, Ben Johnson, I don't know if he's like, that's how I drew it up. He looks a little stunned as well, too. He can't believe what just happened. He can't believe that worked. Oh, chat. Chicago, have they ever seen anything like this? I mean, they've never seen a 4,000-yard passer. You know, we were talking about the 07 Bears. You know, the 85 Bears with, you know, was McMahon the quarterback. There's the extra point for the tie. So 18 seconds left and 2 timeouts. The Rams need a field goal. Definitely not over. But the Rams defensive line has been the cornerstone of that defense all year. That's the perfect play. Them breaking through right there on 4th down and getting the pressure, and you see Verse leading the pack. Like, it's like, okay, of course this is going to be the thing that closes out the game. Caleb Williams, like, spiraling, running around is something that you could see happening as well, too. The sky cam can't even keep up. I don't even know. How did he see him? Yeah, how did he see him in the back of the end zone, Mike? I couldn't even see him from the booth. I don't even know how he saw him with 3 defenders draped all over him. I mean, he's back near the 45. He's back. That's a 50-yard throw when it should be 4th and 4. He's throwing it 50 yards for a touchdown. Hey, perfect spiral. Oh, chat. Mahomes had the incomplete in the Super Bowl. Hey, yo, has Caleb Williams passed Mahomes as the most dramatic, flashy thrower in the NFL now? It's been a couple seasons. Oh, and it's on our guy Durant chat. Hey, yo, the magic of the one Kevin Durant play, I guess, wore off. And now, pause. Hey, yo. And now, Komet's making jump balls. It was more he just committed to going back to the quarterback and left Komet. I don't really know too much about that. But, yeah, tied up. Overtime. I guess we did say overtime. So here we go. The Rams on the return. They will run it back. It's not Devin Hester. It's not the Bears either. So they're getting it at the 27. I mean, what do you take a knee now? You get it at like the 42. So you probably should have just taken a knee or something. Saved yourself 5 seconds and 10 yards. Could have been nice. Are we going for a kneel down? Are we going for a kneel down in overtime? Are the Rams committing to just extending the game? I mean, you got 2 timeouts. You don't necessarily want to, of course, give the Bears an opportunity to get a field goal. And Roma was saying this in the Bills-Broncos game. They will take a knee. Of course, the Broncos had the poor execution at the end, or the Bills, had the poor execution at the end of the first half, and it led to the Broncos getting a direct touchdown. But I don't know, end of the game, maybe it's like 6% different. I don't know. But either way, they'll just live to see another quarter. There are no ties in the divisional round of the playoffs. It is what it is. So 17-17. Once again, Caleb Williams with a magnificent throw on the year. I don't know if the Bears have been a team of destiny all year, but it's starting to smell like team of destiny, chat. I mean, again, this is overtime. I said they won the game, so them losing this would be an emotional letdown for this fan base, obviously the organization, after just the highlight community, the high of that play. Hey, yo, and all the plays that he made this year, the crazy scramble plays, the crazy end of game situations where now it's validated those if they're even one of the final 4 teams left, and knocking on the door of a Super Bowl opportunity with him in this early stage of his career. But the new overtime rules are obviously going to make this more competitive and more strung out for basically a normal quarter. They don't even give out the rules in the speech. He just goes, yeah, it's just another quarter. It is what it is. Was that the Broncos-Bills game that was just in overtime? Or whatever NFL game was, whatever playoff game was just in overtime here. Wait, let me scroll back up and see. Yeah, oh yeah, Broncos-Bills was in overtime. Shout out. It was like, the guy's not even going to explain the rules. He's just like, yeah, it's just another quarter. Whoever wins this quarter wins the game. It is what it is. So that's what we get here. 2 overtime games in the divisional round of the test of the playoffs. What does that mean about the battle-testedness of these teams? The Broncos and the Bears. Are the Patriots and the Seahawks way better because they dominated their games more easily? Again, I guess the Patriots didn't necessarily dominate their game like we were saying. But either way, Caleb Williams, the MVP of the season, the MEP, most entertaining player. Hey, yo, we just created a new award. The MEP. We've got Hall of Fames and we've got new awards on the REMINGTOM live stream tonight. And drama and overtime. Hey, yo, we're going to have to take a quick break before we go to overtime. Reset, settle down, get ready to go. We've got, I guess, an undiscriminated amount of time before the game ends because we don't really know, but it could be another quarter, so stay tuned. The NFL, NFC division round, it's still good, chat. Hey, yo, pause. I say it's getting good, but we do only have 1 quarter left, so either way, lock in. It's winning time. Okay, Rams up first in overtime. Obviously, that doesn't mean everything, but at least you get to set the pace. Stafford, I'm sure the veteran calmness there does give you, you know, a little bit of, like we're saying, calmness going into the drive and into the rest of the game. But 17 for 36, the pressure, the weather, it's all, you know, definitely been a factor. I mean, they were a team that went toe-to-toe with Philly. If it was snowing quite like this, but it was, you know, a game where there was a little bit of elemental stuff going on. So they can, you know, with the physicality of this team, like we're saying, be in these battle-tested type of games. And Stafford was good in that game as well, too. I guess we have to go back and double-check, you know, the interceptions or whatever, maybe stuff late in the game. I don't remember exactly what happened over the course of that game. You know, I just remember the Rams being really close and the takeaway being more, you know, hey, yo, the Rams with the young defense, are they going to be a threat going into this year? And that formula has obviously continued, and Puka this year has continued to take a step forward as well, too. And, I mean, you got to give the Bears defense credit tonight because, I mean, you know, there's games where he could have 160 yards and be running all over this defense, and it could be the yards after the catch as well, too, where he is, you know, being creative in the way that they're getting him the ball, and then all of a sudden he's just knifing through the Bears defense, or, you know, Stafford's just, again, launching it deep and Puka's routing everybody up and running past him. But they've been able to keep that contained as well, too. Immediately into a third down. I guess this is the opposite side of the first possession. The first couple of plays go poorly, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, we're like 7 plays away from going home. We're going to punt this ball away on the next play, and obviously the Bears are going to, what's going to happen? So, I don't know if Stafford's panicking quite like that. But 3rd and 1, do we get a tush push? Play clock running down. Nakua in motion. It's a pitch to the outside. Is that Corum? Oh, Chet! Oh, he broke a tackle. It looked like it was going to be a stop, and then another incredible play. Maybe a broken tackle, juke move, first down, and then the Bears defense just swarms and swarms. They can't get anywhere. Oh, chat, shout out our guy Corum. Again, great effort. I mean, just slipped right past 2 Bears defenders. And Edmonds fell down as well, too, being blocked by the receiver on the outside. So if Byard doesn't come up to make that play, you know, he might actually end up getting that first down. Byard, I'm going to say first-team All-Pro. I know Pro Bowl, but I want to say he was the first-team All-Pro safety as well, too. So showing the range, leading the league in interceptions, but being a part of a huge run stop there as well. So they only need a field goal. Caleb Williams, first 4 drives, 3 for 12, 32 yards and a pick. Last drive, 3 for 6, 38 and a touchdown. You know, good numbers. Again, what you need when you need it. Ayo, he's not the hero you need. He's the hero you deserve. I don't know if that's fair or not. Ayo, I mean a Batman comp. An attempted Batman comp is always a good thing, I'm sure. But I guess Gotham City, it is Chicago, Chad. Technically, right? The Nolan-verse, Gotham City is Chicago. So does that make Caleb Williams Batman? Is Caleb Williams Bane with the way he's tearing up this field? Hey, yo. Got him, chat. Got him. But the fake pitch one way? Oh, the check down to the tight end. I would say that one might have been one of the better play calls of the day. But the Rams did have that covered up. And Caleb Williams decided not to run. Honestly, if he had run with that and let Kmet block for him, he might have been better off. You know, you're going to lose those fractions of a second with Kmet adjusting for the pass. And Caleb Williams did kind of throw that a little bit lazier. I mean, it obviously is a, you know, how critical do we want to be on a first down? I'm just saying that. You know, in terms of maximizing that play call. Hey, yo, if you're a coach, you're like, I could have schemed up 40 yards there. What just happened? And the Rams verse Swarman making a play, stopping Swift behind the line of scrimmage. Again, the pass rush has obviously been a menacing threat this year, but the run stopping from these guys as well, too, is definitely can be amongst the, I guess we should say maybe the most physical in the league at times. And Verse as just a great all-round player as well. So 2nd and 13. We're just going into play-by-play, chat. It is what it is. It's the overtime. Sorry to Collinsworth. If this was Herb Street and Al Michaels on the broadcast, it'd be a lot more. We would have to step up. We're just like doing a public service at this point. It's like, hey, yo, somebody's like, sorry, but Al Michaels. It's like, hey, yo, somebody's got to call this game. I'm not sure, but with Collinsworth and Tirico, obviously you're still getting the best in the business. It is what it is, but this is the high level action, chat, that we've got to pay attention to. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not even paying attention to the fact that our Rockets game is over. And we're not even switching. I mean, if we're not switching to the NBA game and making sure an NBA game is on at all times, then that we're locked in and drama is unfolding. Caleb Williams scrambling up the sideline for third down, takes a shot from the linebacker. Oh, man, chat. I mean, he's able to pick up the first down. The hype from and now I'm going to switch the NBA game as well, too. We have a break. We have a break in the play. IT, we move fast. What happened to the other remote that we had over here? I'm not sure where it went. Oh, well, we're good to go. We can still make it work. 1st and 10 for the Bears. Sorry, chat, we'll get the game switched. It is what it is. Pelicans not quite able to keep up, though. They fought Derek Queen, sort of the Caleb Williams. I don't know. Is he maybe the Bryce Young of the NFL? If Bryce Young was Derek Queen, hey, yo, maybe the Panthers fans would be a little bit more happy with that. But obviously, very successful season this year compared to where we thought things were trending with that franchise. Do we go Raptors-Lakers? Hey, yo, the Hornets are just taking it to the Nuggets right now. It was 87-57 going into the fourth. So, I mean, if Jokic was there, it'd be like, okay, well, maybe they make the comeback. Maybe the Hornets still want one of the top guys. But no, Raptors-Lakers just starting. I guess we'll go with that one. I guess we'll throw LeBron on. It is what it is. So 2nd and 4. Once again, another run stop to the outside by the Rams defense. And 54 Landman. Oh, Chad, it's our guy Landman. Hey, yo, Billy Bob Thornton himself is out here getting tackles. Who knew? Is that the star of Landman still? Do we need to throw on a Landman trailer? I guess this is NBC. So next time a game is on CBS, run a Landman trailer so we can get an update on the cast and see what's going on there. But I remember seeing Billy Bob Thornton running around in those, if I'm not mistaken. If it was not one of the other Yellowstone shows, again, they all kind of look the same. I'm sure they're all great, but it may be a little bit difficult to differentiate if you're just kind of watching trailers. It's like, which is it? Billy Bob Thornton's in which one, and Harrison Ford's in which one, and then Kevin Costner's has got his own Western franchise as well too there. But 4th down for the Bears. Oh, Chad, it was 4th and inches. Are they going for it? Do you go for it in Rams territory? Oh, Chad, Ben Johnson, year one. He's pulling it out, Chet. I hear the zipper. Oh, it's a run. It's Caleb Williams on the snake. Ooh, went around the guard, Chat. Able to comfortably pick it up, but that's a risky play. I mean, you're basically gifting them a field goal. I guess they're almost to the 50, so you would probably need 1.5 first downs if you're the Rams to feel extra comfortable there. Pause. But again, the ease of that in a sudden death situation, again, the overtime rules obviously extend the time in a major way in which the overtime periods are played now, but you still end up in these sudden death scenarios over the course of the game potentially. So to have that kind of play calling, in this moment shows you the peak aggressiveness as well too. And makes me wonder which one of these guys will have it go the opposite way. Because, again, they all kind of lean into it in some ways. If Vrabel and Ben Johnson are the two coaches. Even McDonald as well, too, can be, an analytic guy in a sense. Like, which one of these guys is going to make the sort of misplay when it comes to judging the football movement? Because that is something that it feels like in the analytical era has actually, as I'm thinking about it, maybe gone more the other way than it has for the analytics. Oh, no. Caleb Williams with the pick. Cam Curl. Speaking of who's going to get a payday, chat, Cam Curl with the interception. Oh, he undercut the route. It was a low throw as well, too. I think he did have the receiver. Here's the camera from behind the quarterback here. Pause. Cam Curl on the left side of the field. The interception, I think, ended up being on the right. And yes, he does have the receiver. Yeah, he just kind of misled him. And I don't know if DJ Moore should have maybe sat down a little bit more in the zone there. I don't know. But Cam Curl just a real, that's technique. That's textbook. That's what you say. That's textbook free safety playing right there. Keeping everything in front and then breaking on the ball when you see obviously when you make the read. So now you do have to make a bit of a full drive here. The turnover is giving the ball to Rams at their own 21. So not that immediate field goal range, not that immediate first down field goal range threat. You can still force a punt, but obviously, you give up your own drive as well too. Stafford did have a little bit of a rejuvenated look, a little pep in his step when he was warming up and throwing as he was walking onto the field. So I don't know if that means anything. And he has, or the Rams have now 2 successful plays to start the drive, a run and a pass. So it could just be that veteran Stafford McVay or okay, this is it. We got to go win it right here. This is the time to take the game. And, if Stafford can hit that lock in, let's go level, then I'm not saying that he's unstoppable. I'm not, is Stafford one of the most unstoppable locked-in fourth-quarter guys in NFL history as he lobs one to the sideline that's getting a little risky. Ooh, 26 had a chance to undercut that one, but he gets it to Adams. That's pushing it all the way. He pushed that pass all the way to the sideline. What might have even been hovering out of bounds when Adams made the catch. Ooh, that's the borderline risky to brilliance right there. The angle, the degrees of separation in which a throw is even the same throw. If you angle it a little bit more inside, it's just a bad throw. If you can get it as far to the outside as he was able to get that though. Oh, Chat in the defender with the outstretched arm. Even that angle might be a little bit of an illusion. I'm not sure, but no, I think it's pretty legit. It's close. The defender is right there. I mean, Adams, for as great as he is to get separation on these routes, again, the defender is able to be in the space enough to affect the throw, but Stafford is able to anticipate kind of the defender's movement and Adams' movement as well too, to get that pass around him is pretty impressive. I mean, first down and a field goal wins the game here as well too. So they're getting closer to that sudden death range. And, not to RIP Bears fans already as well too. I feel like we've RIP'd everybody at this point. It is what it is. But, and they confirmed the play. They confirmed the play as you would expect. But overtime against a Super Bowl winning team in the past, against a Super Bowl champion Stafford and a Super Bowl champion McVay, your overtime on your home field is just maybe a blanket scenario that you're thinking, hey, if we're a good team, we want to win those scenarios, those overtime games at home. But this team on the road to go in here and have the potential to pull off a win, it's not necessarily the most shameful thing in terms of the overall direction of the franchise and of the season. Again, it is a team that is absolutely set up to, hit the highest levels of success this year. That's for sure. With the way they're playing right now. And again, their defense being absolutely insane. You've got to respect them as an absolute title threat. In the divisional round of the playoffs. But again, this is not hey, what's going on with the franchise? Houston Texans. Oh no, do we need to reevaluate some major things going forward? It's probably the other way around where you're like, hey, all of a sudden we've got a quarterback, we've got a coach, we've actually got some franchise pieces where at 5 games last year, we weren't necessarily feeling confident about this stuff. And now there is proof of concept for how successful it can, it can be at this point and maybe even continue to be as well too. But they are able to knock the pass down on second down. So we're in a 3rd and 6 and the Rams aren't in really field goal territory as well too. They probably would end up going for this on 4th down would be my guess. Even on a 4th and 6, because, I don't know, 450, maybe you do punt it. You probably got to punt it and make them drive a little bit. Let the defensive line get pressure. And, you know, I don't know if you, because you're going to go into a second overtime. Again, you're not going to tie. So this is not a scenario where you ever really have to speed up your drives at this point. You know, just because the quarter is winding down. I mean, yes, I guess if the quarter winds down, what happens if it's still tied? Does it just change into the field? Does it just become the second overtime period like a second quarter? Or do you have to reset the rules? And do you just tie that period and then have to play a whole new period? I guess, hey, yo, we'll have to see what happens there, if at all the case. But, yeah, 3rd and 6, shotgun, Stafford, surveying, engage 8 on the blitz. He gets it to Puka. Oh, he checked it down perfectly to Puka. Right, perfect timing as the blitz was getting there and able to pick up the first down. That quick underneath route, just a couple yards, turn around. Stafford's going to be able to hit you there. Obviously, all the linebackers and stuff are now in the backfield because of the blitz. And they even blitzed the corner where Puka was, who was guarding Puka, and Byard just didn't quite rotate down in time. And then he missed the tackle. I mean, missed the tackle. Pua broke a tackle. You know, it's a little bit of both. But he just was a little bit of a step late rotating down. And even if he contacts him, I guess, behind the first down marker, Puka probably just runs through him there. Who knows? But either way, I don't know if you can necessarily blitz the corner of the best receiver arguably in the league when he's lined up in the slot on that scenario. But 2nd and 7, you still are able to make the Rams work for yardage. I mean, I guess you can't really give up any yardage at this point. Like we're saying, a field goal wins the game. So you're kind of going to have to block a field goal at this point. Hey, yo, it is ball in the 24. 2nd and 7. You're going to need a turnover. There's no way you can throw this ball at this point. Hey, yo, even with Stafford, there's just no way that you're going to be throwing passes. They go for the handoff there, and McVay takes a timeout. Okay, McVay had 2, obviously, so he is obviously, again, down to 1 at this point. And I don't know if the play clock was running down there as well, too. I think just trying to set himself up for success as they are now, like we're saying, in field goal range. Shout out to Harrison Melvis, the kicker for the Rams. Really living up to the Harrison Melvis name, just in general. I don't know if that's, you know, picture Harrison Melvis, and I don't know what you get, but shout out. He could be an iconic guy, potentially. So here we go, 2nd and 7, again from the gun. Again, we'll see if they commit to the handoff. This could be a screen as well. You've got Adams in the slot. Quick throw. Oh, it is a throw. Stafford drops back. It's one-on-one. It's tight coverage. I mean, the safety was rotating over as well, too. Stafford puts that on a rope, so it didn't seem like anybody was going to get that. It was right on the fingertips of the receiver. It was, again, almost a really brilliant pass. I mean, I get it because it's Stafford, but I don't know. Shot up the sideline into double coverage when you're in field goal range for the win. 2nd and 7, just take the run play. Just 3 runs. 2 runs. You know, what is he even about? Don't run it on 4th down. Kick the field goal on 4th down. 2 runs. Kick the field goal. Go to Seattle. Get on the plane. Go to Seattle. That's the rules. That's how this works. 42 yards from right here. Stafford once again lofting to the end zone. Oh! Broken up. Broken up by the Bears. It looked like maybe, I don't know, flag, nothing there. So 4th and 7, they're just going to settle for 42. I mean, I know that 42, 35, you know, it's not that much. I guess 7 more yards would have gotten them a first down. But 42 to 39, you know, even if you pick up 3 more yards and just mentally get him in the 30s, you know, now you're in the extra point range. Once you're in 30-yard field goal range, you're entering chip shot territory. Again, 40 yards is kind of, you know, I would say basic field goal territory, but still basic. Field goal up, Melvis! Oh, chat, why did we doubt Harrison Melvis? Shout out. The Rams get the field goal. Is that it? Is that confirmed? Oh, Ben Johnson walking on the field. We'll see if the handshake is a little bit... What's the linger on the handshake with Sean McVay? I don't know. Can we get a linger count on that? That's... Hey, yo. that might be crazy. I'm not sure. But hey, yo, shout out. Either way, shout out the Rams. They just won in overtime. Go into Seattle. We get the divisional matchup in the AFC West. Stafford now still the veteran guy that can claim his ring and spoil all this. Miami, they could keep Indiana from winning their first ring. Stafford's like, hey, yo, none of these guys are ready to get a ring yet. This is my league. This is my league. I'm gonna win the MVP this year. I'm gonna win the Super Bowl. One of the great quarterback seasons that we've ever seen. Stafford in 25-26. We didn't know we were witnessing it. But can we give the MVP to a season we didn't know we were witnessing? I'm not sure. But hey, he's gonna be in the conference championship game. See, chat, we already forgot about the play. The pedal backwards spiral lob thrown to the back of the end zone. If anything, the Caleb Williams hope this season, the Caleb Williams confidence that Bears fans have is resurrected, because again, in all due respect to where it was at going into the year, I'm not gonna say it wasn't there, but it was in a different spot from where we were at, from him being a generational prospect at one point. And I gotta say, by the end of year 2, are we saying that, what is generational prospect? Again, are we saying, well, now all of a sudden, Caleb Williams is going to win 3 Super Bowls at this point? If he is Mahomes, he's got to match Mahomes' Super Bowls. Now he's 3. The over-under for Super Bowls for Caleb Williams is now 2.5 after that throw. I don't think that's what we're saying. But now he is, again, back into that class where it's like, yes, he is probably a guy that can be a franchise guy. He is a guy that is a big-time playoff player. In a sense, he was stepping up and making big plays throughout the course of this game, and obviously in that Packers game last game as well too. And just the overall franchise confidence in that spot, I think you have to admit, is as good as it's ever been. It's as good as it's ever been. And I think that's the whole point of making the trade for Caleb Williams. So again, you go look at this season and how it plays out. Ultimately, we were thinking, could the Bears make the Super Bowl as a fun pick? Against realistic, they went toe-to-toe with the Rams. I think they would have gone toe-to-toe with the Seahawks as well, too. Their defensive aggressiveness and Caleb Williams' ability to navigate some of that pressure, I think would have been very real. But for the most part, the mindset of the franchise after 2 years, I think is exactly where you want to be after making that trade, and that's the whole point. And here, let's go look that up real quick. Just as and not to, bum out Panthers fans. Again, you guys won the division this year. Bryce Young, he's looking great. So, you wouldn't trade Caleb Williams. You wouldn't trade Bryce Young for Caleb Williams any day. That's your guy. Shout out. So, shout out Caleb Bennock as well, too. But I meant to go to Caleb Williams. So, that is where we will go this time. Oh, we almost did it again. Pause. Caleb Johnson as well. But no, Caleb Williams. Hey, yo. For the entirety of the trade, I don't know if they've used up all the picks at this point, but traded by the Panthers as a 2024 first-round pick with a 2023 first-round pick. Subsequently traded, Jalen Carter was picked, but that ended up being the Darnell Wright pick. We can go back and look at that. Subsequently traded the 61st overall pick for Bretton Strange, Luther Burden, and DJ Moore. Hey, yo. So, wait, let's see what this Bretton Strange pick ended up being. He is, tight end for the Jags. So, he was traded for in this trade, it looks like it was traded a couple times, but was traded for, as a second-round pick, with a fifth-round pick for another second-round pick, Tyreek Stevenson. Okay. So I don't know if Tyreek Stevenson was a major part of the rebuild, but in terms of storylines, that play against the Commanders last year is a major story in the rebuild in terms of moments they have to rebuild from. But I don't know if it was actually them as part of them being rebuilt, if that makes sense. But what else did they get for Jalen Carter? Because Jalen Carter, hey, yo, massive talent, pause. But Darnell Wright has been, again, a very recognized impact as well, too, on this team. They got a fourth-round pick, Tory Taylor, the punter. So Tory Taylor, Darnell Wright, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, and Caleb Williams for Bryce Young and Tyreek Stevenson. Hey, yo, that's quite a haul, chat. That's quite a haul, and you can't complain if you are trending to be this successful in the playoffs. So shout out. The unfortunate thing for the Bears is everybody is going to be on the Bears next year. It is what it is. So they're going to be destined to fail and destined to let people down because they're going to be too overhyped. But it's fun that the Bears have gotten to this level of being overhyped, or that they will get to this level of being overhyped after this year. And just Ben Johnson year 2. I mean, the Ben Johnson year 2 storylines are going to be crazy. I don't know if we can get like an over-under for how many times we mentioned that. But, yep, we've got Rams at Seahawks, Patriots at Broncos for our championship games, just like we predicted at the beginning of the year. We're still 100% on all of our game picks, so that's exciting. You're going to want to stay tuned for the conference championship games to see which direction we go there. But we will actually be back tomorrow night, like I said earlier, because we got college national championship game. We've got Miami versus Indiana, Mendoza, Carson Beck, history on the line. We're going to be here to witness it, at least the first quarter, while it's entertaining. And then I guess we'll go do something else after that. But, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night. Join us here on the YouTube. College national championship, college football playoffs, finally wrapping up with Miami. But, Miami at Indiana, but really Indiana at Miami. So I don't know how much that'll play into it at all. But either way, the dominance of the Hoosiers versus the anti-Hoosiers, the opposite Hoosiers, anti of the movie. Hey, the team that's not the underdog at all, but the Miami Hurricanes, the team that should be I don't know. Now we're getting crazy. Hour 3.5. It is what it is. We'll be back tomorrow.